Good morning, 5 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're at 65, clear skies right now, much different from last night. In fact, Middle Tennesseans are going to spend the next couple of days cleaning up from last night's storms. In Clarksville, a lot of people captured video of a rain-wrapped funnel cloud during the storms. Debbie Nunn of Clarksville spoke to Channel 4.
Only a short time ago in 2022.
A vote this morning is aimed at moving that bill out of the House Rules Committee, which is considered the biggest hurdle prior to its passage in the full House. Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
The S&P snapped a 6-day winning streak as stocks sank on renewed economic warnings. The S&P lost 23 points, the Dow fell 114, and the Nasdaq dipped 72. Investors were spooked after J.P. Morgan's CEO, Jamie Dimon, warned that the international tensions, growing deficits, and tariffs are raising the risk of inflation. Treasury yields and the value of the U.S. dollar held relatively stable following Monday's falter. Companies with some of the worst losses were in the travel industry as concerns grow about how Americans will be able to afford vacations. Airbnb lost 3%, Norwegian Cruise Line fell almost 4%, and Viking Holdings fell 5%, even though the company reported stronger results than expected. On the winning side, D-Wave Quantum stock jumped 25% after releasing its latest quantum computing system. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Now, stock futures this morning all pointing down. We've got Dow futures minus 315. The NASDAQ futures down 167 points. And the S&P futures, they're minus 43. That's the latest news. Stick around for traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. A little bit of trouble on 65 on the northbound side before Old Hickory Boulevard this morning. You're going to find a stalled out semi-tractor trailer, and it's in the right lane. Police say that that's a crash, but it appears that it may have stalled out. Anyway, it's in the right lane, and it's causing some delays. Otherwise, roads are looking good. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 89.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. How are you? How are you? There is so much going on this morning. I do want to dive right into it. By the way, Joan Jones she drew the short straw this morning. So she gets to watch everything that's going on in Washington, D.C.
Darn.
So that House Rules Committee, and they started, was it 1 o'clock Eastern time?
1 o'clock Eastern time they began. Mm-hmm. So they're still at it. They're
they started at midnight. Our time.
No, they started at 2 o'clock our time, right?
We always mess this up.
Yeah, we do.
No,
you're right.
Thank you, Joan. So, yeah, Eastern Standard Time is 1 hour ahead of us, which means that it was midnight our time. So, Tim Burchett going to be probably not in a very good mood this morning, so I will not text him and say, hey, when you get out, can you call us on WTN?
Dadgummit, will you call us?
Dadgummit. Oh, I got some dadgummit news.
Oh, yeah?
Coming up at 5:35.
Okay.
Here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Super Text line is open. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. Where are we going today? Very quickly, we have at 5:35. I cannot wait to play for Joan. This is another delicious audio moment where Megyn Kelly goes after Jake Tapper. Have you heard this audio?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I can't wait to get your opinion on this.
She came with the receipts.
Oh, she absolutely did. So we're going to play that. 6:05. Robert Peters is a national security expert with the Heritage Foundation. We're going to get his take on President Trump's Golden Dome defense system. So looking forward to that at 6:05. We also have, of course, it is Wednesday. Brian Wilson, he's going to be with us at 7:05, going to talk about his take on the latest headlines, of course, including his specific thoughts on these pro-illegal alien nonprofits here in the state of Tennessee. I've been talking about these. So Brian has a piece on this. We're going to talk about this. And guess what? These folks, they cannot pass independent audits. 7:35, we have Congressman Scott DeJarlais. 8:05, our friend Mitch Soberman. And he is, of course, co-founder of the nationwide nonprofit Jewish Republican Alliance. And I'm really interested in his take on Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East and those rumors of issues between President Donald Trump and Israel. And so we'll talk about all of that and a whole lot more here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to go jump into the Wayback Machine to 1983.
What if free people could live secure in the knowledge that their security did not rest upon the threat of instant U.S. retaliation to deter a Soviet attack, that we could intercept and destroy strategic ballistic missiles before they reached our own soil or that of our allies? I know this is a formidable technical task, one that may not be accomplished before the end of this century. I call upon the scientific community in our country, those who gave us nuclear weapons, to turn their great talents now to the cause of mankind and world peace, to give us the means of rendering these nuclear weapons impotent and obsolete.
So back in 1983, I believe, I don't know about you, Joan, I think you may have been a senior in high school. I was a sophomore in high school.
What year?
1983.
I was graduated.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Thanks.
I was a sophomore, whatever. Anyway, that is President Ronald Reagan. Way back then, I remember talking to my dad because I don't know if you remember, Joan, but when Reagan was talking about the Star Wars defense system, did you notice? I mean, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But did you notice that everybody was freaking out? Like, oh, my gosh, how could he do this? You know, and they almost acted like it was an act of war. And I didn't really understand at the time, and I don't understand now, because it wasn't an act of war. He was trying to prevent war. That was all part of peace through strength.
Well, you know, of course, it spawned that theory that it would create a scene where there would be like space, a war
up in space.
I guess in space,
right?
Because it couldn't be conducted on the ground. So I don't know how that is an issue,
right?
But that's what that was one of the biggest, I guess,
criticisms.
Yes, of what he wanted to do.
I thought it was great. I had absolutely no problem. It was one of the Because, I was a flaming liberal in high school.
You
right?
were?
So, we've talked. I thought we talked about that. And I was listen, in my defense, I didn't know any better when I was a long-haired hippie in high school.
Yeah.
I wish I could say that I was a dope smoker, but I wasn't. That's not an excuse. I was just ill-informed, to be perfectly honest.
Well, you were in California.
I was but my dad was a conservative. So anyway, bottom line is it was one of those things that my dad and I actually agreed on back in 1983. I didn't see anything wrong with the Star Wars defense system of Ronald Reagan. And of course, you heard him say it probably, I forget his exact vernacular, but you heard Ronald Reagan say it's not going to be finished anytime soon. Well, here we are in 2025. Yes. And now, of course, in Reagan's defense, he had limited budget and they didn't have people like Elon Musk around. And so technology just wasn't where they needed it to be.
And didn't they call it the Star Wars because they were making fun of him? Wasn't that a way to make fun of what Ronald Reagan wanted to do?
Didn't he call it, I don't know. I think he called it the Strategic Defense Initiative.
Yes.
It's been so long ago, but they may have called it Star Wars to make fun of him. I don't know. I've always called it Star Wars. My dad called it Star Wars. And remember, Star Wars was a very big deal at the time. So I don't know. I don't know if that was meant as a criticism against Reagan or not. But bottom line is he had a great idea. And really, when you look back to 1983 and where we are today in 2025, he was ahead of his time. Ronald Reagan was ahead of his time because we now have our arch enemies now have missiles that can go 6,000 miles an hour and hit us here in America. So Ronald Reagan was right, and Donald Trump has finally announced what we all suspected was coming.
We have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada.
As usual, we help Canada. A little passive-aggressive nature there. But if Canada is willing to help pay, then that's fine. But this is a $175 billion project, which will hopefully be done in 3 years. I'm going to tell you that it's going to be a lot more than $175 billion. That's number one. And number two, I don't know if it's going to be done within 3 years. And basically what they want to do is take our existing military infrastructure and sort of expand that to include this missile defense system. And basically what it would do is it would shoot down missiles fired from our country as these other missiles or rockets are coming in. So if you've got the likes of China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, or whatever nation decides that they want to bomb us, we'll be able to knock them out of the sky. And clearly, how I am explaining this is very, very shallow, very basic in nature. But you're talking about a lot of satellites. You're talking about something called attacking satellites as well. And we're going to get into some of this, but we'll really get to the intel coming up at 6:05 with our expert from the Heritage Foundation on, number one, is this a pragmatic $175 billion price tag? Is that really pragmatic? Is that actually what the price tag will be? Because others are saying, no, this is going to be about $500 billion, and it's going to take at least 10 years. I don't know. But I like the fact that President Trump is swinging for the fences. Now, if you know anything about Israel's Iron Dome, what it does is it protects populated areas from missiles coming, by and large, short-range missiles and short-range missile threats as well. So people are comparing Israel's Iron Dome to what our Golden Dome is going to be. And I will tell you, it's not a very good comparison. Details straight ahead. It is 5:15. Time to check the roads on WTN.
Looks like things are doing pretty well so far this morning. No delays on 24 as you're making your way into Nashville over to the airport. All looking well there. 65, no delays either this morning. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. As far as your weather for today, a high of 80 degrees, possible showers tonight. And as far as I know, Joan, no baseball-sized hail.
Nothing like that today, folks.
No. I hear that
Thank
was
goodness.
insane, although people are saying it wasn't actually baseball-sized hail. It was more like, golf ball-sized hail. Maybe some have said a little bit bigger than a golf ball. Others have said a little bit smaller than a golf ball.
Does it matter? It's still damaging and it hurts.
You ever been hit by? Well, I don't want to get into.
I'm not.
We'll talk about getting hit by hail at 5:35.
Okay.
Because I got a story. I used to live in Texas, and let me tell you something. Hail in Texas is like nothing I've ever seen here.
How about that?
I mean, hail in Texas. That you want to talk about golf ball size hail?
Everything's bigger in Texas.
That's what they say, Joan. All right, 5:17, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so Donald Trump's Golden Dome. Of course, he is calling it the Golden Dome. Now, people are comparing it to Israel's Iron Dome. And again, what Israel's Iron Dome does is it protects populated areas from missiles coming in, by and large, short-range threats. And Israel is about the size of Jones, New Jersey. It's very small. It's the size of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, what President Trump wants to do is he wants to protect all of America. Some people say that America is about 450 to 500 times the size of Israel. So, obviously, this is a far bigger area, far more populated area than Israel is. We're a bigger nation. So it's going to be more difficult. And so that is why some would say that it is inappropriate in comparisons, our Gold Dome to Israel's Iron Dome. This is part of Donald Trump's vision.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space.
Right. And so he's talking about launching from the ground. He's talking about launching from space. He's talking about weaving in, again, our current infrastructure. But basically what Trump wants is a space-based missile defense system that will protect America. Makes all the sense in the world. This is huge. This is peace through strength. Again, Israel is the size of New Jersey, America, massive. So many different population centers as well. So this is going to be incredibly complicated, but the president knows that.
Hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles, all of them will be knocked out of the air. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air.
All right, so part of this, obviously, is Trump thinking about modern technology, where we are now, and where the technology is going. And so part of this is just trying to make sure that we have a system that can, because satellites and radar systems, huge with this project. So we need to have a system that can track and shoot down anything. And make no mistake, we've had a massive hand in Israel's protection, obviously. So there are some aspects to Israel's Iron Dome that we will utilize for our Golden Dome. So you're going to have radar, satellite systems, and then, of course, the hardware to shoot down those incoming missiles. And yes, the technology we have also has to be adaptable because the enemy is always adapting.
And so having well-placed radars that can tell you that a missile has been fired or rocket has been fired, where it's coming from and where it's going is really critical. And I think that's one of the main contributions that Israel has made here, is being able to quickly find these pretty small rockets, figure out where they're going, and then plot an intercept course for them. And even better than that, the Israeli system is able to determine where that rocket is likely to land And if it's going to land somewhere where it's not going to do any damage in an open field, perhaps, it decides not to shoot that rocket down. It's going to save its ammo. It's not going to expend what can be pretty expensive interceptors on shooting down something that doesn't pose a threat.
That is a guy named Blaise Minstall, and he is a weapons expert who says that this clearly is a massive undertaking.
But here, the Israeli experience is actually useful. There's Iron Dome, but they also have a range of other air defense systems that cover everything from that short-range rocket to the ballistic missiles, like we saw recently when Iran attacked Israel. All those systems, it's important to note, were co-developed and helped funded by the United States. So that's technology that we've paid for, we've invested in, we helped make successful and effective. And hopefully that's technology that President Trump leverages using that Israeli expertise and brings it into the Golden Dome system.
You got China, you got Russia, you got North Korea, you've got Iran. Of course, you got the terrorists as well. Now, I hate to be a Danny Downer, but we still have China that by and large is able to tap into our computer systems. They're still able to hack us. This is going to be a constant battle. And so I fear, and I think it's a fear that I'm going to ask our expert on, but the worry that I have is that China and all of our enemies, they're able to adapt, and we always feel like we're responding and we're not actually playing offense when it comes to hacking. And so, and you see all of this going on, and I will admit I've been frustrated because China seems to keep being able to hack into our computer systems. We've seen that time and time again. So part of my curiosity is, okay, so we come up with this system, but then will we be able to keep up with the technology, especially if we have a Democrat in the White House? Lord help us. We'll have to see what happens there. But if that happens, then all of this, of course, goes by the wayside. But I do like what Trump is doing. What Donald Trump is doing is he is working to establish peace in our world, not only through strength, but also through diplomacy. But at the same time, he's working hard to keep Americans safe from incoming missiles from our enemies. Personally, I love, love, love this idea. It is 5:23 on Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones has the news coming up at 5:30. Hey, Joan.
Yes, some storm damage cleanup begins today, and we'll have some nice weather to do it in, too. Also, why a woman in Minnesota is suing her surgeon. What a bizarre story. It's coming up here at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
528, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN News with Joan Jones is coming up in mere moments. You can watch the radio show on X, Facebook, 997WTN.com, and, of course, YouTube. And that is where you can take the daily... I got big news yesterday. Joan, did you hear the big news yesterday?
What big news?
That unfurled on the YouTube channel yesterday?
No.
I was shocked at what happened yesterday. Completely shocked. And we'll talk about that. Watch us on YouTube. And we have the Daily Dan poll up there. And basically, right now, the Daily Dan poll is, if you were in Congress, would you vote for Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill? Yes or no? And KGB, the numbers thus far?
89%, yes, they will sign it.
80? Bunch of rhinos. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. You know you're raising the debt ceiling. I'm not judging. But you're going to vote to raise the debt ceiling. But I get it because everybody wants the tax breaks. Anyway, it is 5:30. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It's now 5:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. One of the hardest hit areas during last night's round of storms, the Blackman Road area of Murfreesboro. Some of the houses there flooded. Trees were brought down. McKenna Smotherman telling News 2 that her dog alerted her family with frantic barking, and that's when they got into their safe space. Right after that, a tree fell through the roof.
Thank God that everybody is okay and nobody got hurt. And that we were, still able to get into the house and get the dog and just, thank goodness for the dog.
In Clarksville, a funnel cloud was spotted. Lots of damage to properties, too, including damage from high winds, hail, and heavy rain. Another stumbling block for the Trump administration's efforts to deport illegal immigrants. ABC's Lionel Moisey says that a federal judge has now ordered the administration to maintain custody of deportees who are being sent to countries other than their home countries.
The New York Times reports Judge Brian Murphy pressed the administration in a hearing on whether migrants were being deported to South Sudan without due process, which would violate an order issued in April. That order directed the administration to give migrants 15 days notice to raise concerns about potential danger before deporting them to countries other than their own. Lawyers say at least 12 men were deported to South Sudan.
Hey, if you're keeping count, a fifth inmate has now been captured after breaking out of that Orleans Parish Correctional Facility 5 days ago. It leaves 5 more of those escapees on the run. And in Minnesota, a woman is suing her surgeon and the hospital where her left kidney was removed during a surgery in 2022. The woman is suing because the surgeon was supposed to remove her spleen. Post-surgical notes showed the surgeon confused the two. That's the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Well, I'm not seeing any delays on 24 right now, and 65 looks great as well. Heading out to the airport, no problems on 40. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.536. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk, 89.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here, along with Joan Jones. KGB is here. Louie is training. And I've got a lot I want to get to in this segment, Joan. Let's get right to it.
All right.
So, number one, did you see that Jesse Waters, his show apparently went to a James Comey book signing?
Oh, it was too funny. He sent Johnny out.
All right, so I'm not familiar with all the characters.
Okay.
But this is what it sounded like.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, great to meet you. Hello.
Director Comey,
Yeah.
how are you?
Good, thank you.
Jesse Waters from Fox has a question.
Yeah.
Why do you want an 86 Trump?
All right.
Director?
He's got nothing to say. He's got his little Sharpie, and he's looking down, and he's signing the book. Apparently nothing to say.
I'm not taking questions like that now.
But why would you
Just signing the book.
Why would you post that? Director Comey, how was your interview with the Secret Service?
You want the book signed, really?
Absolutely.
Okay, you got it, bud.
Can you sign my seashell too?
Oh, my God. He brought in a...
Can you sign my seashell?
Can you sign my seashell?
And that's when he was escorted out.
So did Comey... Because I have not seen this video. This is the first time. By the way, I just posted this on my X.
Yeah.
So does he actually sign the seashell? I think that'd be funny if he did.
I don't think he did.
Which beach is this that you're going to? You find a Kamala seashell, 8647. This is a politically charged beach, Director.
They will.
Come on. Director, the seashell?
Oh, yeah, they're...
You want to sign it?
Have a nice, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good night. Thank you. Good night, Director.
Bye-bye. Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah.
He had to know that was going to happen, but I bet you he didn't think anybody would bring in a seashell. But that's awesome.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, you gotta love it. And this is one of those things where this is just going to be. I don't have anything really on this today. If there's anything new on that particular part of the news cycle, I don't know what it is. But I think people are calling BS, and we'll have to see what happens to James Comey. By the way, we got some sad news yesterday.
Afternoon, everybody. Norm! How you doing, Norm? What do you know? Not enough.
What do you know? Not enough. George Wendt, dead. Wait, I think, Cheers, just real quickly, but Cheers, you think about the characters, Joan, on Cheers?
Yeah.
I don't know if you were a fan. I was.
Oh, yeah.
And you had Norm, and you, of course, had Frasier and some of these other characters. And they were just great. I mean, these were truly unique characters, but also very relatable characters, including Cliff, the mailman. I mean, I just loved him.
Yes.
Did you have a favorite character on Cheers? And then we'll move on. But did you have a favorite?
No, I liked them all. Did you ever go there to what was it called? Oh.
The actual bar?
The actual bar.
I've been outside of the bar. I didn't ever go in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Have you? Have you been inside?
Yeah, I went in.
And?
Many years ago. It was just cool being there.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, they closed it down.
I wonder why. Why would they close that down?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
By the way, he was 76.
Mm-hmm.
It was said of him that he was a doting family man, a well-loved friend, and a confidant to all of those lucky enough to have known him. So I never heard a single thing bad about him.
No, I never heard about politics,
Right.
left or right. I mean, I never heard anything.
Just
like
a likable
that.
guy.
Yeah, just a very likable guy. All right, so very quickly, because, again, we have a lot to do. In the 6 o'clock hour, by the way, we are going to speak to Robert Peters, and we're going to get all the latest on what is going on with Donald Trump's Golden Dome. I think that's going to be a great conversation. Really looking forward to that. Is anybody, by the way, tired of Jake Tapper?
I think it's delicious that he is being brought to task for all of his, he's out there saying, oh, look what I've uncovered.
Right.
As if it's new to him when the rest of us were screaming it for years.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Jon Stewart had a great monologue.
Forgetting about the fact how weird it is that the news is selling you a book about news they should have told you was news a year ago for free. It's just fun.
Oh, there's more.
It's just fun to watch them not only continue to push the book in light of this difficult news, but to actually frame this difficult news as perhaps even more of a reason to buy this book.
The timing of former President Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis is certainly dramatic, coming on the eve of a blockbuster new book about his health and his time in the White House.
Go on.
I'm sure some observers will say that the reporting in the book is even more important now.
Yet nobody's saying that.
Nope. No, Brian Stelter, by the way. That's audio from Brian Stelter. And he's right. Nobody's saying that. So clearly, and he had a great montage of all of these CNN reporters and anchors talking about how important the Jake Tapper book is.
Oh, yes.
Megyn Kelly has Jake Tapper. Now, in fairness to Jake, he shows up on Megyn Kelly's podcast, knowing full well that he is going to get eviscerated. And yes, that happened.
I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters
then he wasn't.
thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that
No.
he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
All right, I think my computer's, Joan, is having a stroke because that sped.
Yeah, it sure did, didn't
the
it?
audio up a little
I was
bit.
thinking, did she have coffee before she went on the air?
I don't know. I don't know, but everybody knows if you listen, we've been having some computer gremlins here. But bottom line is yes. And she went after Jake Tapper. And in case you missed it, back in 2020, Jake Tapper, this is what she's referring to. Back in 2020, Tapper asked Biden about transparency regarding his medical records. And of course, Biden said, of course I'll be transparent. Well, then all of those things happened, right? Where's Jackie? Falling up the stairs, slurring, getting lost in thoughts and words.
Shaking
and Tapper,
hands with ghosts.
Yeah. And yes, shaking hands with ghosts, getting lost on stage.
Yeah.
And Tapper then has Biden on the show, on his program there on CNN. He never asked about any of that. He never asked about Jackie Walorski. He never asked about falling up the stairs. He never asked Biden about any of that. And so for Megyn Kelly, she said, okay, well, what about the lack of follow-up?
You know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
I mean, and Tapper, two things were funny. Number one, you've got Tapper in the middle square. You've got this guy, Alex, I think it's Thompson, who's his co-writer. He is off on the right side, and he's not saying anything because he knows that Tapper is being taken out to the woodshed. And so, this is why all of this seems so incredibly silly with all these media people trying to sell his book. They're trying to blame the White House for the cover-up when it was a team effort. And do you know what I find particularly fascinating about all of this? Is that Megyn Kelly, you remember all this, Joan, she was dispatched to the world of like podcasting and videos after she leaves Fox News. She goes to the networks, gets fired there, and ends up doing what she's doing now.
Independently and beautifully.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Jake Tapper, supposedly highly respected journalist, keeps his job by not doing his job and then writing a book about not doing his job and then getting all kinds of love because he wrote a book about literally not doing his job and being part of a cover-up. Megyn Kelly, I don't know if she's making more from the podcast or when she was at Fox News or the networks. I have no idea, but I just think it's crazy that the true journalist is the one that is not working in traditional journalism, which, by the way, if traditional journalism, I thought it was already dead, but if traditional journalism wasn't already dead, this case absolutely puts a bullet in traditional journalism. Now, Megyn Kelly, as you said, over there living her best life and doing incredibly well. It seems to me she is, at this point now, Megyn Kelly has far more credibility than Jake Tapper ever will, especially now. And by the way, there is also this moment.
But you covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seem to be running cover for the president. You didn't seem interested. Do you want to apologize to Lara Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
Wow. Now, I love that Megyn went there.
Do you have the audio of Lara Trump?
It's funny you should ask, Joan.
Okay.
So this was Lara Trump and Jake Tapper way back when.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And so he apparently had to apologize.
And at the end of that, he said something to her like, yeah, we all believe that you have his best interest at heart. Sure.
Oh,
it was really snarky.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen. Tapper spent all that time defending Biden, trying to hide what we all saw, blasting Lara Trump, then having to apologize after the truth comes out. And Megyn Kelly points out she was absolutely right. And she called him out. She absolutely did.
I feel angry because she was right. And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was totally right. And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length, including on page 4 of your book. You describe at length his cognitive decline, which is all she tried to do with you. But I'm telling you, like, over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down. It was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book, we knew and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him. It was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter. And there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying.
And what I love about that comment, Joan, is that she says, over here in my ecosphere. So that is people like Megyn Kelly, people like Joe Rogan, who finally came on board, and other people who are podcasters. And, you know, I'm going to dump talk radio in there as well. We were talking about this for years. We've been talking about this. And I remember days where I'm sitting in this very chair and we're playing audio of a very befuddled and confused and lost and trying to shake hands with ghost Joe Biden. And CNN is defending him on the television in front of me. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah.
So I like how she says, nope, traditional journalists either missed it or deliberately hid or tried to give Joe Biden cover. That is what was going on the mainstreams. Meantime, in her ecosphere and our ecosphere, we were absolutely all over it. By the way, this story from The Independent, where former President Joe Biden's White House chief of staff was known as the Prime Minister, Ron Klain.
Oh.
Joe Biden's longtime chief of staff,
Yes.
Ron Klain, was known as the Prime Minister because He was the one making all of those big decisions. Speaking to Time author Alex Thompson, of course, Jake Tapper's co-author, was asked about insiders referring to Ron Klain as the prime minister. When you have a president whose energy is limited, whose time is limited, whose bandwidth is limited, then a lot of decisions had to be filtered down, Thompson responded. And there were big decisions being made that people who had served in previous administrations, they were surprised that Joe Biden was not involved in. So you've got Ron Klain making all the decisions. You've got all these Obama leftovers because remember, Biden was basically Obama 3.0. So, first term, second term, and then 3.0 with Biden. So you've got all of these Obama leftovers, and they're wondering, where the hell is Joe Biden? Why is Ron Klain auto-penning and making all of these decisions? And, this is something that the Wall Street Journal reported on, and Jake Tapper was not. Thompson added that one cabinet member who is not identified told the authors the president is making the decisions, but if you present the decisions in a certain way, often it's not really a decision. You know how that goes, right? Mm-hmm. So headlines all over the place on this, from the cognitive cover-up to the cancer cover-up. I do like this parting shot, and Joan, I saved the best for last.
Okay.
This is Megyn Kelly and Jake Tapper.
Let's just stick to the facts here, okay? When there is a damaging
Jake,
report...
that's what I've been doing all along.
I'm talking about what you just said.
Didn't miss the biggest story of the century when it comes to presidential politics, and one of us did.
Nice.
I saw that this morning, and I was like, yes!
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You really feel it.
You do.
Yep.
You do. I mean, she just eviscerated his arse.
It's about time.
Well,
it's
yeah,
about
because
time. But I don't think it makes him take a step back and do the 30,000-foot look. I don't think it phases him one iota. He just wants to sell a book. Like James Comey.
Would you buy the Jake Tapper book?
No.
I wouldn't buy it either.
No.
I got my big vacation coming up, and I've been trying to decide what to... Yeah, and my liberal friend said, well, why don't you buy Jake Tapper's book? I said,
Dadgummit.
Not going to do that. By the way,
yeah.
So I had a listener reach out.
Dadgummit.
She actually wants Tim Burchett's
Dadgummit
for a ringtone.
For a ringtone?
Yes.
Love that.
Because I was having so much fun with it.
Dadgummit.
That that she wanted it for. Sorry, I've emailed her the Tim Burchett Dadgummit. And
does Tim Burchett know that you're?
No, no, I don't think so.
We might want to tell him.
To be honest, I'm a little afraid to now.
Yeah.
Because supporters, FOTs.
Friends of Tim.
Yeah. They were a little upset because they thought that I was mocking Tim Burchett. I'm not mocking Tim Burchett. I like Tim Burchett.
Not even a little bit. Yeah.
You think I'm mocking him?
No, I don't think
good. I wanted to make sure
no.
we're on this because I don't think I am, but I've been known to be wrong before. So
really?
Yes. I've been known to be wrong. Just it happens, once or twice. And when I'm wrong, I say
Dadgummit.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There you go. It's a 5:53 on Nashville's Morning News. And Joan Jones has got the news coming up at 6 o'clock. Joan,
well,
what's up?
Looks like they're still behind closed doors in Washington, D.C., the House Rules Committee. And they've got President Trump's big, beautiful bill that they're talking about. So we'll tell you the latest about what's happening there and a crazy story about a guy in the country illegally in Ohio. Wait till you hear what he did. That's coming up here at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:58, Nashville's Morning News. All right, real quickly. Joan.
Yeah.
So you and I have spoken about how over there on YouTube, when you YouTube chat.
Yeah.
They've got their own thing going on over there. So apparently something has been playing out on the Murphy Show where one of the folks on the YouTube chat, when you watch us on YouTube, somebody named Touge, is it Touge? I don't know.
Yes, I heard this.
So I guess he was going to name, middle name, he was going to name his daughter after Matt Murphy, the middle name. So it was going to be like something, Maddie or something like that.
Yeah.
After Matt Murphy. Touge, a big Matt Murphy fan, as we all are. Well, apparently the baby was late and was actually born, I guess it was yesterday at 8:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so old Touge decided to name his daughter after me, middle name.
Yeah.
Eleanor Daniela.
Oh.
And so, which is a beautiful name.
It's beautiful, yes.
So Murphy's
he's been out of shape.
He's a little hurt
about
the whole thing. So he went on this whole thing. I had no idea this. I'm sitting at Starbucks yesterday.
Did you hear him making fun of you?
Who, Matt?
Yeah.
No. Did he make fun of me again?
Mm-hmm.
Must be a day of the week. Matt Murphy's making fun of me. I love Matt Murphy, and he loves me, so it's all good. So congratulations.
So now you have a kid named after you. Great.
Congratulations, Touge, whatever, Touge. Congratulations. I actually would like to send something for the baby. So if you can send me your email address or your address or whatever, I'd love to send you guys something nice. All right, it is 6 o'clock. And thank you. 6 o'clock, Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
Well, hello there. 6 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We are keeping an eye on Washington, D.C., where the House Rules Committee is right now meeting. They began their meeting at 1 o'clock this morning to discuss and then vote on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Now, in a promising sign, Republican Congressman Ralph Norman of South Carolina said he would allow it to advance out of the Rules Committee. He has traditionally been one of the holdouts. But the floor vote, the full Senate, make that the full House vote, that'll be a close one. Tennessee's Tim Burchett.
Republicans, frankly, in the House have a three-person majority. We're one flu season away from being out of that majority.
And conservatives complain that bill does not make steep enough spending cuts to significantly bring down the deficit. A possible tornado may have caused the damage from last night's storms in Clarksville. Residents near the Sango neighborhood report it hit nearby, but no injuries were reported, no homes destroyed. Murfreesboro residents tell Channel 4 it was no picnic there last night either.
I couldn't believe it, and then I went out back and, my pool's damaged. There's a tree in it, and my fence is completely down. There's more trees out back that are gone. Completely gone.
The National Weather Service will determine if there were any tornadoes that touched down last night. And in Ohio, a 24-year-old man from Venezuela has been arrested for pretending to be a 16-year-old high school student. Anthony Labrador Sierra presented a fake birth certificate, told the school he needed someone to take him into their home. He was unmasked by a woman who contacted his new host family and told them he was the father of her child and he was here illegally. During his time at the school, he joined the JV soccer and swim teams. Now he's in jail. It's not clear if he'll be deported after being charged. Market numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
Investors concerned over rising Treasury yields and the nation's debt sent stocks lower Tuesday. The Dow Jones gave up 115 points. The Nasdaq and Standard & Poor's each slipped 0.4%. The S&P snapping a 6-day winning streak. Shares in Warby Parker popped more than 15% after the eyeglass maker announced a partnership with Google to produce smart glasses. The devices will incorporate the Gemini AI assistant. No formal launch date has been announced. 5 years after pulling it, Apple has grudgingly brought Fortnite back to its App Store. The return of the first-person shooter caps a long legal battle between Apple and Epic Games over fees that are charged for each download. If your Morning Joe suddenly costs you more, this may be the reason. One of the largest roasters and distributors of coffee in the Midwest has hiked prices. In a letter to its clients, Paramount Coffee Company blames U.S. tariffs on imported coffee beans. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Stock futures pointing down pretty sharply this morning. The Dow futures are minus 409. NASDAQ futures down 153. We've got the S&P futures down 42 points. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. There is an issue this morning on the 24 westbound side in Glencliff at the off-ramp to westbound Briley Parkway. That's exit 54. There's a crash there, and the off-ramp is partially blocked off by it. And just a note here, it's the last day of school for several area school systems today. Murfreesboro City, Rutherford County, Williamson County. So, you've got some school buses departing for the last time today. Careful, there'll be a lot more kids on the roads, in the neighborhoods after today and after this week is over. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.607 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Real quickly, Joan.
Yes.
You were asking if I had heard that Matt Murphy and company in the afternoon were making fun of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear the conversation. Apparently, though, they were making fun of my upcoming Disney cruise, which is not a Disney cruise. And Matt apparently was saying that I was going to be spending time with Goofy. And that's actually not true. My wife will be spending time with Goofy.
Dun-dun-dun.
You see what I did there?
I do. Yes.
All right, very good.
It was well executed, Dan.
Thank you, Joe. Roger Peters is joining us. Roger, is that kind of comedy you folks in Washington, D.C. are missing out here in Nashville, Tennessee? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. All right. So Roger Peters is a national security expert with the Heritage Foundation. And Roger, let's get your take on Donald Trump's Golden Dome defense system. So a lot of folks, including Donald Trump, comparing this Golden Dome to the very successful Iron Dome in Israel. Let's talk about the similarities, but there's also a lot of differences here.
Yeah, there are a lot of differences. I mean, what President Trump laid out was a plan to put sensors and interceptors, missile interceptors in orbit that can take down any kind of missile threat to the American homeland, whether that's a cruise missile or ballistic missile, or as he said, a hypersonic missile. And so that's the real difference from what we've got today. We do have systems that are similar to Israel's Iron Dome system already in place, but this is really about expanding the system itself to have a continental size coverage.
Do you think that it is feasible? Do you think that, we've got a very, very large country, obviously, and we have a lot of population centers. Is this something that is pragmatic and feasible within the next 3 years?
Yeah, so from an engineering perspective, this is absolutely possible to build, in that we're now able to put kilograms in orbit cheaply. SpaceX and Starlink has proven that this is the case in a way that really wasn't even possible 5 years ago. And we've got the computational power necessary to identify, track, engage, and destroy adversary ballistic missile threats when they launch. And by going to space, you actually have the ability to shoot these things down when they're in boost phase. That is, when they're going slowest before they go exoatmospheric and are really going high speeds. So from an engineering perspective, this is far easier than putting a man on the moon in the 1960s in 7-8 years.
Let me ask you, because I think this is a great conversation to have. $175 billion price tag is what Donald Trump is saying this is going to cost. Others, though, are saying, oh, no, it's going to cost about $560 billion. What say you?
So it's still hard to discern what the cost will be. It'll depend on what the actual systems architecture that they build. But what I'd say is, look, those are not small numbers. But you have to understand that what President Trump said would be spread out over 3 to 5 years, and the $500 billion, which is a large chunk of change, according to the Congressional Budget Office, that would be spread over 20 years. So once you do the math, it's actually not that huge of a number from a Defense Department perspective.
Well, this is huge because, honestly, we all know you've got China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. You got terrorists as well. But we have all kinds of different threats against us. We, of course, have those, 6,000 mile an hour hypersonic missiles that could come our way. We also have, small drones that could come across the border from Mexico. So in what Donald Trump is envisioning, will this Golden Dome defense system be able to handle all of those threats?
Almost completely, yes. And here's why it's so important that we build this now, is we're seeing coming out of Moscow almost monthly nuclear coercive threats against the United States or one of its allies in NATO, in which he threatens to use a nuclear weapon against an American city or one of our allies. It comes out of North Korea so frequently, it's not even covered in the news. But we shouldn't forget that Kim Jong-un makes these statements about incinerating American cities with nuclear weapons almost on a weekly basis, and it just is lost in the sauce at this point. This is why it's imperative for us to build this now, is because our adversaries are openly talking about this.
I think this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is fascinating with President Trump, where on the world stage he is advocating for peace, but at the same time, he also wants to protect America.
No, I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, the best way to deter a war from breaking out in the first place is to convince your adversary that they cannot win. And that gets to the heart of peace through strength. You build these systems not because you want to fight a war, but because you very much don't want to fight a war and you very much want to protect the American people.
Part of what I see all this as is this is going to be something that constantly has to be updated and upgraded as well. And I sort of liken it to the cyber warfare that we have against China and some of these other countries as well, where we always, and I may be wrong on this, but it seems like I'm talking about this constantly, where we seem to be on the defensive all the time when it comes to cyber warfare. It's like we are reacting. And so my question to you would be, how easy will it be, or how will we be able to constantly be on offense here in anticipating what our enemy will be doing to adjust to our defenses?
Well, I mean, that gets to the enduring character of warfare. I mean, going back to the Peloponnesian War, in which the Greeks figured out better ways to build a boat, or better shields and better spears. Is, one actor comes up with a better defense or a better weapon, and the other actor has to react, and then the original actor has to overcome their reaction. I mean, This is the very nature of warfare.
Yep. So last question here, and I really appreciate your insight. Tell me, are we able to shoot down a 6,000 mile an hour rocket right now if it was coming to our country?
We would have a limited ability to shoot down a very small number of weapons that would be going at that speed. But then once we take that shot, we would largely not have the ability to shoot again. This gives us the ability to take multiple shots at multiple threat vectors.
How close is this to Ronald Reagan's original vision in 1983?
I mean, it's in many ways, it's a direct lineal descendant of President Reagan's vision. The difference is that, one, it was really, really expensive to put satellites in orbit in the 1980s. And frankly, we have the computational power today that Reagan couldn't even dream of. I mean, the fact that middle schoolers have supercomputers in their pockets is mind-boggling. And so those are the two big differences for why SDI under President Reagan failed, in 1983. It's a different world.
Oh, completely different world. And these days, we've got a guy like Elon Musk, and I know that you don't necessarily want to get political, but just so folks know that I know, Elon Musk has come out and he's actually said that he doesn't want to partake in this unless President Trump asks him directly to help in this project. Is Elon Musk the only guy that can get this done through SpaceX, or are there other great minds out there that can actually get this done as well?
I mean, there are other minds out there as well. I mean, Elon Musk is terrific. His companies are great, but we need to be very clear. Like, the United States has the best engineers on the planet. I mean, we are able to do things now that, from an engineering perspective, are mind-boggling. And so, whether you're talking about Lockheed Martin or Boeing or Northrop Grumman, we've got a lot of really smart engineers that, if we enable them to unleash their minds on this task, they're going to come up with some really cool solutions.
All right. Thank you very much. And really, really incredible insight. Always appreciate you folks at the Heritage Foundation, and you have a great day. It is 6:16. Time to check the roads on WTN. As far as your weather goes, today, a high of 80, possible showers tonight. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I'm heartened by that interview that I did with Robert Peters from the Heritage Foundation, because, I mean, to hear him say it, it is absolutely feasible that we could see the Golden Dome within the next 3 years. So we'll have to see. Do you know what I bet, Joan? I bet you there's people that are actually out there thinking, how is President Trump think he's going to put a dome over America? You know what I mean? I guarantee you there's progressives out there that went to like Chicago public schools or something that are thinking about that, as opposed to this being a missile defense system with all kinds of radar and satellites and all that kind of stuff.
And, he was saying yesterday that in America, we have the most, the smartest people that can create the systems that we need. the smartest people in the world. So the system that we'll have, even though Israel's system is terrific, our system is going to be head and shoulders above that because of the new technology and how much, we have. The great thinkers of the world are here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I can see it happening, but I question that timeline. I mean,
3 years?
3 years is not a whole lot of time.
Not a lot of time, but we've already got a lot of that infrastructure built, so we'll have to see what happens. Have you seen, Joan Jones, the viral audio of one Scott Jennings?
Oh, his audio always goes viral. I'm not sure, but play it for us.
Well, this is a minute 16. Now, this is fun with audio. Now, you folks know, fun with audio means that we haven't heard the audio yet.
Oh,
and I have not heard this audio yet because I like to just react to stuff naturally. So this is Scott Jennings, and they say that this is the moment of Scott Jennings, and this proves that he would make a great United States senator.
But we're raising a family back in Kentucky in a world where the nuclear family is under assault, where so many of our values, the underpinnings of our culture and civilization are being attacked on so many fronts. So when I look at my boys and I think about their futures, I want them to grow up not just in a rich country. I want them to grow up in a good country that believes in the truth, that protects free speech, that celebrates family, and that defends life, born and unborn. A country that does not apologize for its faith, its history, or its heroes. So that's why I'm in the fight. That's why you're in the fight, I suspect. And it's why events like tonight's really matter. Because if we don't speak up, who will? If we don't defend the truth, who will? If we don't show up, the spaces that we abandon will be filled by people who despise everything that we cherish.
Wow, Scott Jennings, that was good.
That sounded like a campaign.
Oh, it absolutely sounded like a
style,
campaign.
Video. Whoa.
Well,
Maybe he's thinking about it.
Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell, right? He said that he's not going to run in Kentucky.
Yep.
So, about 20 years too late, but whatever. And so I love the fact that there are people that are saying that he's going to run. Here's the thing. And I think we talked about this before. Where is Scott Jennings more influential? As a member of the Senate or, giving him hell over there on CNN? That's the thing, because he is incredibly influential. He's one of the few people that can go into a room and a table full of the vipers that are over there on CNN and hold his own.
Yes.
And he is absolutely fearless. And so, from a personal standpoint, I think that he is over there on CNN, really defending American values and defending Donald Trump and conservative principles. I love what he does on CNN. I mean, I think he'd be a great senator too. But the other thing is, I think that he would have to take one heck of a pay cut if he ran for the U.S. Senate, because he's doing really well over there on CNN.
But, the window for CNN closes a little more every day. The viewership goes down, goes down. So, maybe his effect could be greater in the Senate. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
What I do know is we're late. 6:22. Joan Jones, what's coming up in the news?
Well, we've got the latest on whether or not that big, beautiful bill is going to make it out of a committee, which began to meet at 1 o'clock this morning. Keeping an eye on it, we'll bring it to you coming up here at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, 6:22, Nashville's Morning News. I don't know about you, but a lot of people are saying that they may have some roof damage because of all of that hail that we saw yesterday. And so if you find out that you've got roof damage, I've got the roofer for you. North Point Roofing Systems. Now, I suspect that they may be making the rounds in some of these harder hit neighborhoods with all of that hail yesterday. So if North Point Roofing Systems, if they come to your door, if they knock on your door, this is a company that you want to talk to. Now, they've got offices right here in Middle Tennessee in Brentwood. They're not one of these fly-by-night, here today, gone tomorrow roofers. No, this is a great company. Again, offices in Brentwood serving all of Middle Tennessee. They have the distinction of being a GAF Master Elite Roofer. Now, GAF is the largest shingle manufacturer in the country. And North Point Roofing Systems, they're specifically trained as the best roofers in the country. You know, only the top 1% of roofers have this added training. The other thing that I love, and it's happened over at my house, they came over to my house, free drone inspections. They're going to bring their drone over, and they're going to take film, video, pictures of your home, of your roof, and they're going to tell you if you need any repairs. You know, it's not some guy walking around the roof. No, they have drones, and these drones don't lie, and neither do they. North Point Roofing Systems, you can find them online, northpointroofingsystems.com. That's northpointroofingsystems.com. Dan Mandis here at 625. You know, as we found out yesterday, the weather in Middle Tennessee, it can get crazy, which is why you need a backup home standby generator. From my friends at the Generator Supercenter, they are the nation's #1 Generac dealer. So when your power goes out, like in your neighborhood, the power in your home is going to be on, thanks to that backup home standby generator from the Generator Supercenter. You can get a free quote and get peace of mind when you have one installed. The Generator Supercenter does feature expert installation, 24-hour monitoring. That's not going to leave you in the dark. Financing is available. 615-879-1952. 615-879-1952. You can find them online anytime. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. Generator Supercenter of Nashville.com. 628. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Missives from the Super Text line, Joan.
Yes.
1607. No way Joan Jones graduated in 1983. You're still such a hottie.
Oh, that made my day. Thank you.
Nobody ever calls me a hottie. I get called goofy. Whatever.
Well, there's grumpy and dopey and
Sneezy.
sleepy.
Yeah, I'm let's see here. Boy, this is dangerous. Which dwarf would I be? Because let's be honest. I am a little dwarf-like. Amy calls me Laputian. I'm not sure what that means, but I think that means that I'm small in stature.
It's leprechaun, but said differently. You get it?
That gummit.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I would be either dopey, because the listeners here, they call me dopey.
Mm-hmm.
Sneezy, definitely, because I got massive allergies all the time. Thank you to Zero Res for helping with that, by the way. Let's see here. Grumpy. I could be grumpy.
You could be drunky?
I've been, you know what? I've been known to be drunky a time or two as well. Anyway, it is 6:30 on Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
Good morning, 6:30 now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. They're still behind closed doors right now. The House Rules Committee's 1 a.m. hearing still underway on Capitol Hill, where they're discussing and then voting on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Now, safe to say that Democrat Congressman Benny Thompson is no fan of middle-of-the-night meetings.
We may be here in the dead of night, but you do not need the light of day to smell manure. The American people are not going to be fooled by any middle-of-the-night manure slinging here.
If the bill passes out of the Rules Committee, House Speaker Mike Johnson will bring that bill to the full House for a vote. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo now facing a federal criminal investigation tied to his handling of COVID-19 in nursing homes.
The Justice Department has launched a criminal probe into former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo after House Republicans accused him of lying about nursing home deaths during the pandemic. Cuomo denies wrongdoing and calls it election interference. He's now running for New York City mayor. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington is investigating. That office now led by Jeanine Pirro, a former Fox News host who unsuccessfully ran against Cuomo for New York Attorney General in 2006. Dave Packer, ABC News.
A 16-year-old Glen Cliff High School student arrested after a loaded handgun was found in his car on school property. That student was reportedly overheard telling friends that there would be fireworks at dismissal. School staff then searched his car and found that gun. And a report on the economy just released this morning. The Mortgage Bankers Association saying that demand for 30-year fixed-rate mortgages fell 5% last week as interest rates climbed to their highest level since February. Mortgage rates jumped from 6.29% last week to 6.86%. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
6:32, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Want to welcome on in Tony from Cabinet Solutions. Tony, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, Dan. How about you?
I am doing good. So today I know that we're going to talk about the installation of cabinets, because, you can have great cabinets, but if the install isn't great, well, then it can be a complete train wreck. But with you folks, you've got the experienced installers and you've got the know-how to get the job done right.
No, you're right. You just stole my thunder. I mean, that was everything I was going to say right there. That was amazing, Dan.
Well, we've got like 45 seconds left, so.
I need to hire you. I need to hire you to do some advertising for me or something.
Let me tell you, Tony, let me tell you something. The people here know that I work cheap. Talk about the different kinds of cabinets you have, because as I like to say, you've got cabinets for every budget.
Well, we do. We've got all budget price points, and we've got 15 different brands. So there's plenty of colors, door styles, and everything. But, back on the installer real quick, you can, like you said, you can have a great product, you can have a great design, but if the install is bad, that's what you're going to live with the rest of the time you're in that house. So you got to make sure that you have not just highly experienced installers, but make sure they're experienced at doing the right thing.
You know, you've got such a great point, Tony, because in a previous life, I had some cabinets, since this was like 20 years ago, had some cabinets installed, and there was an imperfection, and you hit the nail on the head. We looked at that imperfection for like 5 years. It drove us nuts. It
will.
Exactly. All right, very good. So mycabinetsolution.com is the website. Tony, thanks as always, mycabinetsolution.com. .635, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I want to tell you about my friends at Contours. Listen, they had a huge and really successful special for Mother's Day. So in the interest of fairness, Father's Day is coming up. If the dad in your life has a dad bod that he would like to get rid of, help him out with a belly buster special from my friends at Contours for just $99. You can get him one of those belly buster specials from Contours. If you call right now, first 10 callers, 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960. First 10 callers get that $99 belly buster special. Now, if you don't have a dad in your life, but you want a belly buster treatment, you can call right now as well, 615-236-9960. Most folks, you know, they lose at least 2 inches in the middle with these belly buster treatments. I did, others have as well. Taking advantage of Contours red light technology, it's not only incredibly unique, but also it is incredibly effective. So don't forget right now, first 10 callers, 615-236-9960. You get that belly buster special for just $99. Call right now. That's a huge savings. 615-236-9960, ContoursLLC.com.
It's a problem this morning on the 24 westbound side in Glen Cliff. The westbound off-ramp to westbound Briley Parkway. The right lane is blocked off because of a crash in the right lane. Also, Briley Parkway northbound right there in that same spot. The right lane is blocked off by that accident. Hermitage 40 westbound before Stewart's Ferry Pike, exit 219. An accident takes out the left lane. And then you've got a problem, a crash in Creve Hall. This is on Harding Place at Overcrest Drive. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.638, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in and hope you're doing well. Don't forget, Brian Wilson is coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I don't know about you. We were talking about Scott Jennings earlier and about how it is so great to hear Scott Jennings as like the lone voice of reason at a table full of, you know, I almost used the word but I didn't. But there's a very satisfying conversation between Marco Rubio and Senator Chris Van Hollen. Now, same thing with Scott Jennings, where he gives him the business and makes him look dumb. Same thing with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Senator Chris Van Hollen. So testimony was going on yesterday in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and Van Hollen, remember this guy, he went to go see Kilmar Abrego Garcia, had a margarita with him, gang member, human trafficker, the whole thing. So testimony is going on in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and Van Hollen goes on and on, 7 minutes, about all the terrible things that Donald Trump is doing, including making people disappear and all that stupidity. I don't even know if he asked any questions of the Secretary of State, who is spending his time there in this Foreign Relations Committee hearing to answer questions. But he just pummeled, Van Hollen just pummeled one criticism after another at the Trump administration and Marco Rubio, and his time finally ran out. But it was a long 7 minutes.
Like the McCarthy-era witch hunts of the 1950s, your campaign of fear and repression is eating away at foundational values of our democracy. And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
Ooh. So this was supposed to be a big gotcha moment with Van Hollen. Rubio shoots back.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job.
Boom.
Love it.
Don't you? I'm going to play that because it is satisfying.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job.
I love that Marco Rubio doesn't cower, and he gives it right back to Senator Van Hollen. And part of what was so frustrating was that Van Hollen wouldn't allow Rubio to get a word in. Dude spent 7 minutes castigating Marco Rubio, blasting Donald Trump at every turn. And so now it's Rubio's turn to respond. And Rubio sat patiently for 7 minutes hearing all of this and this guy's attacks. And oftentimes, Van Hollen, I know you'll be shocked by this, but he was off base.
Based on what I know.
Well, that's just a flippant statement, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
You
Mr.
may.
Chairman?
I didn't ask.
Senator, please let the Secretary have
I'd be
the floor.
happy to, but then I can respond to his.
Your time's up, Senator, and willfully used, I might add.
Well,
your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well,
I love, and I don't even know who the chairman is, but I love how the chairman told Senator Van Hollen, you had your 7 minutes, and it was woefully used. Because he treated Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, with all kinds of disrespect.
Willfully used, I might add.
Well,
your remarks do not represent the view of this committee.
Well, Mr.
Secretary, please.
Well, I'd like to. I can't respond to everything he said because much of these are untrue, but I'll go through a few. First of all, I'm actually very proud of the work we've done with USAID. For example, I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique.
Yeah, one of the things that Van Hollen did was he spoke about all of the great things that USAID has done, and the Trump administration cut it all. You know, children are dying in Africa, you know, that kind of a thing. And so what's basically been going on with USAID is the left, and this is going to, listen, this is just foreshadowing what we're going to see in the midterm election. But the left is going to cherry pick what they talk about from USAID, where there are things that USAID funded that actually did some good. But there's a lot bad too, and that's the whole point. And so what the Democrats are going to do is they're going to say, oh, look, children are starving because of Donald Trump and Marco Rubio. And then the right's going to come back and they're going to say, yeah, but what about all these other things for which the Democrats have absolutely no defense, none whatsoever. And so people like Van Hollen, you know, they're going to walk around with their chests puffed out and their fists clenched and say, you cut this and you cut that. And we can turn around and say, well, you paid for this and you paid for that. And what in the world is wrong with you? And that is a conversation that most certainly we will have, not only during the midterm elections, but I strongly suspect that Marco Rubio is going to run for the White House in about 3.5 years, and that is where this conversation will really take place.
We spent $14 million for social cohesion in Mali, whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here, and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. In the case of El Salvador, absolutely. Absolutely. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear. In the days to come, you're going to see who you went to defend.
Senator,
I'm sorry,
please,
Mr. Chairman.
Secretary
No.
Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated
Senator,
comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You
Secretary
had your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court in the United States because he hasn't done it under oath.
Van Hollen, of course, complaining about the. You know what I think is going on? I think that the Maryland senator is protesting too much. I think that he knows that he lost the narrative when it came to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because after he visited this guy in that El Salvadoran jail, then, of course, we find out that he's a human trafficker. He's a wife beater. He was busted in a car owned by a convicted human trafficker, MS-13 gang member, the whole thing. It's Van Hollen. I just think part of what's going on here is he's just a little sensitive. Oh, but then the real fireworks started to fly, because then student visas came up. And it got even worse. And I've got that audio coming up straight ahead. Plus, we're talking about Scott Jennings earlier, some great Scott Jennings audio on CNN last night. It is all straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7. Time to check the roads. All right, very good. As far as your weather for today, right now we've got a high of 64 degrees. No, I should say it is 64 now, a high of 80 later, and possible showers. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. You know, one of the things that Van Hollen and all the Democrats, you can widen this out to all Democrats, and they are complaining about the treatment of illegal alien gang members, of course. And I think that really this topic, this situation is emblematic of what is wrong with the Democrat Party. You know, these illegal alien gang members, the poster children for the Democrats and their tone-deaf policies. It is insane that they are continuously hitching their wagons to these guys, but they are. But then student visas came up. And Van Hollen used an example of a woman named Rumaisa Ozturk, or Ozturk. I'm not sure which one, don't care. She is a student at Tufts University in Massachusetts who wrote a pro-Palestine and pro-Hamas opinion piece that, of course, criticized Israel and seemingly called for the boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning of Israel. Well, she was here on a student visa, and when they saw what she wrote, they decided that it was the Trump administration, and Marco Rubio decided that she had to go. Eventually, a judge ordered her released, and she was, but this is part of what Marco Rubio had to say about all that.
About the student visas, let me say this. I don't deport anybody, and I don't snatch anybody. The State Department does not have officers in the street snatching everybody. What I do is revoke visas, and it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study. And if you tell me that you're coming to the United States to lead campus crusades, to take over libraries and try to burn down buildings and acts of violence, we're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what Ms. Ozturk did?
We're not going to give you a visa.
Is that what she did? Come on, Mr. Secretary.
And every single one of these cases, the factors are different.
Senator,
the bottom line is, if you're coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Unapologetic. The left is going to bring up these cases on the surface where it seems like the Trump administration is or was and moving forward is extreme in its thinking. And we can just as easily bring up instances where Democrats are supporting vandals who also intimidated, maybe even assaulted Jewish students. They trespassed. They destroyed parts of buildings. They took over parts of buildings and areas of college campuses. So they can bring up their instances. We can bring up our instances. Both sides can bring up their points. But in my opinion, this whole discussion was point Marco Rubio. By the way, the immigration battle does continue. Did you hear? I'm not entirely certain when this was. This Tim Walz, man. So my one request in life is that Tim Walz keeps talking. Now, he's giving a commencement speech at a law school, and he starts talking about the oath that he and other politicians take when they're supposed to be defending the rule of law. This is Tim Walz, and he is giving a commencement speech again at a law school.
Elected leaders like me take the same oath. So that means that no matter what we do or where we work, we share not only a moral duty, but a professional obligation to defend the rule of law. That's a pretty big deal.
Wow.
The rule of law is the foundation of pretty much everything we care about.
Now, realize this is the governor. You had Minnesota that was allowed to burn during the George Floyd riots, and Tim Walz is talking about the sanctity of the rule of law. The Democrats, soft on crime district attorneys that do nothing but allow bad guys to run free and roam the streets. We had that story in Colorado. Was it yesterday? Where you had that illegal alien, I think he was, 15 years old, speeding 90 plus miles an hour, again, in Colorado, where I used to work in Arapahoe County. Killed a 24-year-old woman. Dude got 2 years probation and 100 hours of community service. So where's the rule of law? I would ask Tim Walz, where's the rule of law in that case? Or in all of these cities where you can just openly shoplift and nobody says anything? They just get away with it. And, of course, the obvious rebuttal, which is, hey, where was all of this rule of law when our borders were being crashed by millions of illegal aliens when the Democrats were in charge? Nowhere to be found. They had nothing to say.
Every single day, the President of the United States finds new ways to trample rights and undermine the rule of law. Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons.
So did anybody catch that anti-Semitic comment? Just like when the left calls Donald Trump Hitler, it sanitizes Hitler. So remember that modern-day Gestapo comment is actually, I would say, anti-Semitic. Now, remember, the Gestapo was the force that rounded up the Jews so that they could be sent to the concentration camps where they would be summarily executed. Innocent people getting killed. Clearly and obviously, that's not what is happening here. Words mean things. And Tim Walz knows exactly what he's doing. And by the way, ICE wears masks so that the neighborhoods they are patrolling don't recognize them. That's number one. And number two, I'd be willing to bet that ICE wears masks because the left is going to dox them and their lives will be filled with threats and harassment. You know why? Because that is how the left simply rolls. It is 6:51. Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Joan Jones has the news at 7. Joan.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the storm damage around the Nashville area after last evening's storms. And then President Trump is hosting a world leader today, 1 week after accusing him of genocide. Got those stories and more coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.652 Nashville's Morning News. And let me tell you about a great company, a great Tennessee company, DT McCall's. Now, they are here for you, their fellow Tennesseans, with great prices, great selection, and value as well. Now, I've been telling you about DT McCall's for years and years. They've been helping people out for 3 generations, as a matter of fact. Well over 100 years, and if you need it, they've got it at DT McCall's. Great selection, great prices. If you've got a room to fill, go to DT McCall's. Of course, you know all about their lawn mowers, outdoor lawn equipment as well, appliances. DT McCall's, listen, if it plugs in, they've got it, and they've always got specials going on to save you money. All you got to do is go to the front page of their website. You're going to find what you need at a great price. Specials on all these appliances, the best brands of appliances, washers, dryers sets, dishwashers, and a whole lot more. You can find them all at DT McCall's. And again, they've been at it for over 100 years with a focus on customer service. 5 locations across Middle Tennessee: Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, Franklin. Always online, dtmccalls.com. .657, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Joan, have you heard the latest on Biden? Where now they're talking about, but here's the funny thing. We knew this. So part of the news cycle yesterday was that they actually faked these town halls.
Yeah.
Right? We all knew that those town halls were faked. They had, and I'm just going from memory.
Yeah.
But they had people that were supposedly undecided voters. Remember all that? Undecided voters.
Yes,
and
yes.
They're looking at these people that are undecided voters, and they're like, well, these are the same people that were extolling the virtues of the Democrats on MSNBC. How are they undecided? It was the craziest thing. So Scott Jennings was on CNN, and of course that came up.
And Alex, the fact of the fake town hall is not actually the worst part of the story that you report in the book.
Yes, other campaigns have used fake town halls. Now, I would say those town halls usually are in addition to real town halls. Joe Biden was doing neither. This fake town hall was in order to film it so they could make it into campaign commercials. They filmed it in Delaware with supporters. But Joe Biden, at this point, this is the spring of 2024, Joe Biden's town hall, which was closed to press, was so bad that campaign officials determined that it was not usable for a campaign commercial. So they took 90 minutes, 2 hours out of the president's day. They filmed an entire town hall, and they determined that it was not usable. Now, some people say this was because Joe Biden was incoherent. He could not really articulate his thoughts in a pithy or even semi-normal way. Some people just said, like, the lighting was bad. That was sort of the 2 points of view. But the point is, it shows how what the campaign status was in the spring of 2024 when they were trying to, deal with a candidate that wasn't a decline.
Wait, someone told you the lighting was bad?
That's one of the excuses.
You're saying that they spent millions of dollars to stage a town hall? Well, we didn't get the lighting right.
That was one of the excuses.
I mean,
Unbelievable.
and this comes back to the question.
I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. Do you ever trust a town hall again?
Well, I never
trusted them in the
I
first
never
place.
trusted them in
Yeah.
the first place.
Yeah.
You know who could actually give us a lot of insight on that?
Who's that?
One, Brian Wilson. And he's coming up after the news at 7. He's dealt with these things a lot, especially at the network level. We'll talk to Brian about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. It is Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Middle Tennesseans are going to spend the next couple of days cleaning up from last night's storms. In Clarksville, a lot of people captured video of what they call a rain-wrapped funnel during the storms. Debbie Nunn of Clarksville spoke to Channel 4 about it.
Crazy. It was just fast. It came out of nowhere. There was nothing on the radar. My husband was sitting on the front porch and had to make him come in, and the lines were arcing.
Yeah, some wires down and a lot of trees uprooted as well. There is debris all over some yards. Stefano tells us that the weather will be clear for the next couple of days for that cleanup. Well, happening right now, the House Rules Committee began a meeting, started at 1 o'clock Eastern time this morning. It was an effort to get President Trump's big, beautiful bill across the finish line. At a meeting yesterday, Democrats like Jim McGovern of Massachusetts were angered by the scheduling.
To try to jam it through Congress in the middle of the night when nobody is watching is just unbelievably cynical. This is why people hate Washington.
But North Carolina Republican Virginia Fox called him out on that one.
We've looked back and observed that you did indeed convene a hearing at 1:30 a.m. only a short time ago in 2022.
Now, a vote this morning is aimed at moving that bill out of the House Rules Committee, which is considered the biggest hurdle prior to its passage in the full House. President Trump is hosting South Africa's president at the White House today. Now, this comes as the relationship between the two countries has soured. President Trump calling for an end to the genocide of white South African farmers. Others have been forced off of their land, he said. Also, South Africa's ambassador to Washington was thrown out of the U.S. for calling President Trump a white supremacist. An update now on a hit-and-run crash that injured a man in Nashville with his family. He was here to celebrate his birthday this week. Police have now found the car that was involved. It was recovered at a Mount Juliet car rental facility. However, the driver has not been located. If you've got an upcoming flight on Southwest Airlines, be aware there's a new policy for charging up your phones and computers.
Those new rules for battery chargers on Southwest flights comes after several fires occurred on board. Passengers can no longer store portable charging devices in their bags or in overhead bins, and Southwest flyers will instead be required to keep power banks out when they're using them, also crews can easily intervene if a lithium battery catches fire. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Market Numbers Report now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Stock futures all pointing down. Dow futures minus 335, NASDAQ futures down 103, S&P futures are falling 29. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Whites Creek, a crash on 24 eastbound before Old Hickory Boulevard, exit 40. It's blocking off the right shoulder. Closed off in Franklin on Lewisburg Pike between Mac Hatcher Boulevard and Stewart Street because of flooding. And then a crash in Talbot's Corner, too, on 65 northbound at I-24. The right lane is blocked off. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.707, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. I hope you are doing well. Want to welcome on into the program Brian Wilson. Brian, always great to have you on the program.
It's nice to be welcomed.
Well, good, Brian. I don't know what to say to that. Hey, real quick. One of the things we wrap this up from the last hour is Joe Biden and the fake town halls. Now, I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure you and I actually spoke about this very thing back during the election where they were using the same, town hall people, the audience members from an MSNBC town hall on an NBC town hall. And these people were saying, well, we're Joe Biden Democrat fans, but then on NBC they were portrayed as undecideds, and now we're finding out, oh yeah, these were all made up.
Yeah, listen, it does raise questions. They will do anything when they are desperate, and they were desperate with Joe Biden. They wanted him to be reelected, and they were thinking they had to somehow get him across the goal line, and so they were doing all kinds of things, and we're now starting to find out just exactly how much it was being done to try to protect his image at a time when he really wasn't up to the task of being president of the United States. It's angering. Now, look. A lot of people say, well, the man's got cancer. You got to go easy on him. Come on, have some sympathy, have some empathy. No.
Nope.
No, I just can't, because they lied to us, and now all's fair in love and war. That's the sort of their position. And absolutely, it's fair to point out that at a time when Biden was starting to get hammered, and Jill Biden was getting hammered, and the White House staff under Biden was getting hammered for keeping all of this information from us, all of a sudden, well, he's got cancer. I'm sorry, the timing is suspect, and it's still a really serious matter. You cannot have a president who is incapable of doing the job, and there are supposed to be, safeguards in place for this, and they were ignoring all of the safeguards.
Well, and
pay no attention.
Right.
Oh, it's not as bad as you think it is. It was bad.
Well, and this isn't, I think you said, but this isn't about Joe Biden per se. I mean, yeah, it's about Joe Biden, but it's about all of the people that, aided and abetted in this clear cover-up. I mean, we're talking about his chief of staff, Ron Klain, is in the news today. They're saying that, he was the guy that was actually, doing the auto pens, and he was the one that was making all the decisions. Biden had absolutely no idea what was going on. You also, of course, have the media. Yeah. And obviously, I know that you agree with me on this. The media, the fact that they're writing, like Jake Tapper, they're writing their own books on their own cover-up and trying to make it like they're breaking news. No, you were part of the cover-up. I don't think that them ignoring Biden's clear cognitive decline, I don't think that was a mistake. I think that was purposeful. I think it was a cover-up.
Yeah, well, listen, definitely there's some real questions that Jake Tapper needs to answer. And I know Jake a little. I wouldn't consider him a close friend, but I've been around him some. And a lot of people really like Jake Tapper as an individual. A lot of people think that of the more liberal journalists, he's one of the more people who tried to play it up the middle. I don't buy that at all. I think he knew full well what was going on. And how in the world could you see the things that we were all seeing and come away without questions? Come on, Jake.
The thing, I'm going to play you a quick piece of audio. I don't know if you've seen this, Brian, but Megyn Kelly and Jake Tapper. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't, but I can imagine it's a pretty good mix-up.
Oh, it certainly is. I'm just going to play you one parting shot, but this is Megyn Kelly basically saying that while the rest of the mainstream media and CNN and so forth, while they were just very much ignoring the problem with Joe Biden's cognitive decline, her ecosphere, which is, podcasts, and I'm going to put talk radio right in there, Brian, because we were screaming about it too. But this is what she said to Jake Tapper. Listen.
Let's just stick to the facts here, okay? When there is a damaging report.
That's what I've been doing all along.
I'm talking about what you just said.
Didn't miss the biggest story of the century when it comes to presidential politics, and one of us did.
One of us didn't, and one of us did.
Exactly right.
Do you agree that this is the biggest political story that we've seen in this century?
It destroys, first of all, Jake Tapper and CNN's credibility. To look at the things that we all saw. I mean, the evidence was there each and every day. And to willfully turn your head and say, that's no story, you don't know. Well, I think we all did know, and we were right. And Megyn is correct to say that he missed the biggest presidential story in some time, a president who was not capable of doing the job. Look, when we need to stop and think about this post Biden, we need to stop and think about whether or not we have the safeguards in place, because there are safeguards in place, but the cabinet has to be willing to take action. The vice president has to be willing to take action, and what we've just witnessed is they were not.
No.
So I think we need to revisit all of that and decide, what are the policies and what can we do to ensure that when we have elected somebody, that they are capable of doing the job and somebody else isn't running the auto pen.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk about the big, beautiful bill of Donald Trump's. So we're going to do that straight ahead. By the way, the super text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Brian Wilson joining us here. Time to check the roads on WTN. As far as your weather, high today of 80, possible showers tonight. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. So I am very conflicted, Brian. I'm just going to tell you. I'm very conflicted with Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, because it looks like, one of the things they want to do is raise the debt ceiling. But I also understand that we're going to get some tax breaks in there, too. Obviously, that is incredibly important. I think there's going to be a lot of warts on this thing. What do you think?
Well, it's never pretty. You got the Rules Committee having an overnight session so they can get this thing moving along. There's an old saying on Capitol Hill that, one person can write the rule and one person can write the law, and the person who writes the rule will win every time, because that's where the real power is, in the writing of the rules in the Rules Committee. So, they're in the process of doing that now. So that's a good sign. There's a caucus of people in the House who they call them the SALT caucus, and basically what they want to be able to do is they come from states where state income tax is very high, and they want to be able to deduct some of that from the federal income tax and set up policies with regard, and they're just saying, unless we get a favorable deal, we're not voting for the thing. We'll see whether or not that is. But the other side of it is, I see some good news as well. Sure, are there hangups in the House? Yeah. Is that always the way it is? Sure. Can they get through it? I believe they can. But I really liked what I saw happen in the Senate yesterday, where by a vote of 100-0, they voted in favor of no taxes on tips.
Yes.
So it is, as I like to say, some people would say it's winding its way through Capitol. I would say winding.
I know.
It is winding its way through Capitol Hill, because that's the correct word. But winding its way through Capitol Hill, and I think, look, all of at the end of the day, nobody wants to be the person who says, I kept that tax cut from you. So I think that ultimately these things will get resolved. The other thing is all this talk about Medicaid. The Democrats are trying to scare old people, saying, they're going to take away your Medicaid. They're going to take away your food stamps. Well, I don't know about you, but I still believe in America, where if you have the ability to work, you should be working.
Yep.
And that's all they're doing. They're putting a means test in there. They're saying, look, are you basically just ripping off the system, playing the system, or are you in real need of benefits? Now, I don't have I don't want anybody to go to bed hungry. I don't want anybody to say, I didn't have enough food to feed my family. But I also believe that it's incumbent upon you, if you are an able-bodied individual, to be out there and working to earn those benefits. And I don't have a problem with that. A lot of people are freaking out over that part of it. I believe that that's the right thing. If you really can't work, then we don't want you to starve. If you really have a problem or a serious disability, that's what the system is there for. That's what the safety net is there for. But we all know there's a lot of people scamming the system, and I'm done with that. I'm ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And part of what's going on is the left will say, you're going to have, whatever it is, 5 million people lose their benefits, lose their Medicaid. Well, if they're able-bodied adults, then they can go work at Walmart. They can go work at Target. They can go and earn a living, earn their keep like everyone else. Brian, real quick, I love this piece that you wrote The headline is Nashville Immigration Battle Highlights the Cozy Relationship Between the City of Nashville and Murky Nonprofit Spending. And this was for our friends over there at the Tennessee Star. What I like about this is that I've been talking about this, where it's like, okay, this Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition, this seems to me to be like, I don't know, I would say if they're getting grants from the federal government, then they're getting taxpayer dollars from us basically to usurp what Donald Trump is trying to do. And they're failing audits.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a big circular thing. So you got liberal politicians who will find these liberal nonprofit organizations and find a way to give them federal tax dollars to go out there and support their liberal causes. And in fact, some of them also have, what they call 501 4 C's, not 3 C's, and that allows them to do some political stuff, some to go out there and to do lobbying and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, it is you scratch my back and I'm going to scratch yours. So you got Freddie O'Connell, who's out there saying, I'm catching all kinds of hell because people are upset that, the ICE came into our town and he needed some support. So he turned to these organizations that are out there that they have been funding to help them out. So it's a full circle thing. And I quite frankly, when I was digging around on the Tennessee Immigrant, what is it called? Refugee Rights Coalition, TIRC, TIRRC. When I looked at them, I found out they didn't even keep records that would allow them to explain how they were spending money.
$383,000. They have no idea where that money went.
Yeah, I mean, they know where some of it went. They just can't give you the receipts. And there were no accounting procedures in 2023, which is the most recent audit that I've been able to dig up. And the question is, why in the world, were you doing this? And why couldn't you just simply keep records of how your money was spent? Well, I think it may be that they don't want you to know exactly how that money is spent, but that's just an opinion of mine.
Yep. A great piece, statenewsfoundation.org. You can also find a link over at the Tennessee Star. There's so much news, Brian, that we're talking about. Of course, we all know about the Joe Biden cancer cover-up as well as his cognitive cover-up. And one of the things that I said earlier, and I'd be interested in your opinion on this last couple of days, is if you are a young Democrat like a Jasmine Crockett or an AOC, or if you're older like, of course, Chuck Schumer, I think that any Democrat right now has absolutely no credibility left because they have not been calling out Joe Biden and all of these cover-ups over the last 4 years.
I think it hurts them. I read a story in thehill.com this morning, quoting, not by name, because nobody wants to attach their name to this kind of stuff, but it was quoting a Democrat strategist. And they said, how can you argue that Trump is wrong when he raises questions about what we have just learned about Joe Biden? How can you question him? You can't. He said, that's the problem. That's why we lost, and that's why we'll keep losing until we change. There are those within the Democrat Party who look at it and say, you've got to do something different. If they think that AOC or Jasmine Crockett is the answer, all I can say is bring me all of that you want for the next election cycle. I'll tell you, that doesn't bother me in the least. I mean, if you got candidates of the quality of on the other side of like J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, I'm not worried about anything that AOC brings to the table. So, look, I don't know what Democrats are doing. They just can't help themselves. They react to anything that Trump does just because Trump did it. And it's rope-a-dope every single time because Trump's taken the 80% position, and the Democrats universally find themselves trying to defend the 20% position, and it's just killing them. And some realize it. Some of them can't get over Trump derangement syndrome. But if they think that Jasmine Crockett and AOC are the answer, well, I would say bring me all of that you've got, because I don't think that's a problem.
Absolutely. All right, Brian, as always, really appreciate you being here. Real quick, I've got 30 seconds. Next presidential election for the Republicans, Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a little early to call that. I mean, Rubio is really, really sharp. I mean, he's about one of the smartest people in Washington, and the intellect just oozes out of that guy. He's smart, and I've always liked Marco Rubio. I have found that I really have come to really appreciate J.D. Vance. So I don't know. It's a tough call, but I don't think we've got enough under our belts to know that. And it may actually have to go down to, and they have to fight it out in the primaries and see who survives. But a primary debate with those two guys is going to be a pretty good debate.
Can you imagine?
I'm just not worried about it at all. I think we're going to have plenty, whoever it turns out to be, there's a lot of talent on the Republican bench and not that much on the other side, as far as I can tell.
All right, Brian, Wellness Institute of Nashville brought us this segment. Brian, as
Absolutely,
always.
Thank you.
And by the way, Brian, you're filling in for me next week when I'm going on my Not a Disney cruise.
Yeah.
So,
I'll go easy on you. Don't worry.
Okay, good. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to everything except the alarm clock.
Brian, I do have to warn you, though, just make sure that you stay away from Philly Joan, because Philly Joan gets a little nasty.
I slash tires.
Yeah, I just don't want her going, well, Brian.
Wow.
I'm going to ready
along.
my Will Bryans.
Thank you, Brian. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Joan Jones, hello. What's coming up?
So we have a storm damage cleanup that begins today, and we'll have some nice weather for doing it, too. And why a woman in Minnesota is suing her surgeon. Those stories and more coming up here at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spotify, and Super Talk TV.
725, Nashville's Morning News. Dan Mandis here. Listen, if you've been sidelined with chronic back, neck, and knee pain, check out my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville and Dr. Kevin Mitchell. I've been a client of his for, I've been saying over 10 years. It's actually been over 11 years. I have never felt better. Now, when I arrived in Middle Tennessee, I was hurting. And then I went through some spinal decompression therapy with Dr. Kevin Mitchell for my chronic back pain. It really did help a lot. So if you're sidelined, you've got to check out my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville, where right now they're offering the Big 47 offer in honor of our 47th President of the United States, 47% off spinal decompression. Now, they utilize the latest high-tech equipment in their state-of-the-art facility to provide effective non-surgical solutions. So check them out today and take advantage of the Big 47 offer, 47% off spinal decompression. Call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009, painisbad.com. I'm Dan Mandis. I put my seal of approval on that deal. Dan Mandis here for my friends at Zero Res. Now, this is my carpet cleaning company. I've been a client of theirs for years and years, and a big reason is that they really do help me with my allergies. Now, you know, we are right smack in the middle of allergy season, and carpet is the #1 air filter inside your home. It filters out airborne particulates, pollen, bacteria, you name it. Zero Res will filter out the bad stuff so you can keep your filter clean. Again, that's your carpet. Now, Zero Res does this better than anyone. They don't use any harsh chemicals. They don't use any harsh soaps. Just powered water that leaves behind soft and fluffy carpets. Now, right now, they've got a great deal going on. 2 rooms of carpets cleaned for just $109. Plus, you are going to get a free hallway and 25% off of area rugs. Let me repeat that. A couple of rooms, 2 rooms of carpets cleaned for just $109 and a free hallway, plus 25% off of area rugs. Restrictions may apply. Call them right now, 615-535-9376. Tell them Dan told you to reach out, 615-535-9376, ZeroResNashville.com.
Good morning. It's now 7:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. One of the hardest hit areas during last night's round of storms, the Blackman Road area in Murfreesboro. Some of the houses there were flooded. Trees were downed. McKenna Smotherman tells News 2 that her dog alerted her family with frantic barking. And that's when they got into their safe space. Right after that, a tree fell through the roof.
Thank God that everybody is okay and nobody got hurt. And that we were, still able to get into the house and get the dog and just, thank goodness for the dog.
In Clarksville, a funnel cloud was spotted. Lots of damage to properties reported there, too, including from high winds, hail, and heavy rain. Another stumbling block for the Trump administration's efforts to deport illegal immigrants. ABC's Lionel Moisey says a federal judge overnight ordered the administration to maintain custody of deportees who were intended to be sent to countries other than their home countries.
The New York Times reports Judge Brian Murphy pressed the administration in a hearing on whether migrants were being deported to South Sudan without due process, which would violate an order issued in April. That order directed the administration to give migrants 15 days notice to raise concerns about potential danger before deporting them to countries other than their own. Lawyers say at least 12 men were deported to South Sudan.
Hey, if you're keeping count, a 5th inmate has now been captured after breaking out of that New Orleans jail 5 days ago. That leaves 5 more escapees on the run. And in Minnesota, a woman is suing her surgeon and the hospital where her left kidney was removed during a surgery in 2022. That woman is suing because the surgeon was supposed to remove her spleen. Post-surgical notes show the surgeon confused the two. Stock futures are pointing down this morning with the Dow futures minus 299. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 732, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Loan Pronto. Listen, if you've been maxed out on credit cards, if you're struggling with high interest debt, you could pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. Get cash out right now without touching, by the way, your low rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, and no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto is amazing. Now, one Loan Pronto client just got, listen to this, $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. Now, they paid off debt, they renovated their kitchen, they cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That, of course, is a huge turnaround. Loan Pronto, talking about instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull, and a whole lot more. Call them, Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. Call Loan Pronto right now for a free instant appraisal for your home and see how much cash you can get today. 615-499-5780. Find them online anytime. It's loanpronto.com. Get debt relief now at loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. .735, Congressman Scott DeJarlais in just moments. Going to get an update from Washington, D.C. and what is going on with the big, beautiful bill. Low T Center. Now, listen, guys, if you're over 40 and you're running low on energy, maybe you're just feeling off. LowTCenter.com is where you need to go. Get started with testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, and join lots of other guys who are going through the same thing as you. You know that they've got clinics all over Nashville, and they're really easy to get to. You walk in, you see a real medical provider, you get that energy back. No complicated process, just results. And remember, these treatment plans, they are tailor-made just for you. You can get treatments at the clinic, or you can be treated at home. But either way, you're always going to get the highest quality of care. Now, right now, you can get a free consultation, and if you qualify, treatment is actually covered by most major insurance. So reclaim that energy and become you again. By the way, they can also help with prescription weight loss options as well. So head on over to lowtcenter.com and book your appointment today. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. That's lowtcenter.com. Simple, quick, and totally worth it.
Got a wreck in Joelton on 24, the eastbound lanes at Whites Creek, and it's backed up before that this morning. Franklin, it's closed off because of flooding on Lewisburg Pike between Mac Hatcher Boulevard and Stewart Street. And a crash as well in Talbot's Corner, 65, northbound side, past the I-24 exit 88. The right shoulder remains blocked off. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in, along with Joan Jones, KGB producing. It is a Wednesday, the 21st of May. Congressman Scott DeJarlais is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. Congressman, always great to have you on. So do you have an update on what is going on? House Rules Committee had a big meeting this morning. started at 1 a.m. Tim Burchett, of course, is in that meeting, and they're trying to get Trump's big, beautiful bill to the full House. It's got to get through the House Rules Committee. Number one, do you have the latest on where this stands?
It's kind of funny. I woke up about 3 a.m. and I turned it on, and they were still arguing away. And I listened to it for about an hour thinking I'd have some inside information to share with you this morning. And then turned it on again this morning. It's still on. I have it on TV now, and they're still going at it. They brought in people from all the different committees. I saw the Armed Services Committee folks on there about 3 a.m. talking about what was going on in defense and the Golden Dome. And then I think now the Ag Committee's in there, and those are both committees I serve on. And so they're talking about the SNAP cuts. And so unfortunately, I don't have any breakthrough news for you, but obviously they've been going since 1 a.m. and are still going strong.
All right, Congressman, let me ask you, the main sticking points seem to be salt tax. That's number one, is one of the big sticking points. And, of course, number two, you have the Democrats screaming that Republicans want to cut Medicaid, of course. And that is, it feels like at this point, this is just, screaming that the sky is falling, right? I mean, we hear this all the time. And Speaker Mike Johnson, he's basically said what we're doing is we're gutting the waste, fraud, and abuse on Medicaid by putting in work requirements or means testing for Medicaid. And that makes sense to me. You're a medical doctor in a previous life, or you still are. What do you think about all that?
Well, I agree with the sky is falling part because, making major cuts to Medicaid would not be popular with anybody. But if there are people who are not qualified to be on Medicaid, then we need to take a look at that. So it's a process that occurs over the next 10 years where they take a look at who's on Medicaid. And in this country, our poverty level is like 400% of your income compared to, say, other countries. And so you can make 80-some thousand and still be considered in poverty. They just keep raising the level of what poverty is. And so, the people who really struggle with health care now are ones that don't get it through their employer and have to pay for it in the open market. So there's people that are paying $25,000, $30,000 a year for health care. And then there's people who probably can afford health care through exchanges of their employees that are not doing it. But I think with Medicare, they're looking at people who are on it illegally. The work requirements, I think, focus more on the SNAP program in ag, and that's something that's amazing to me because it's universally agreed upon across all political spectrums, whether you're an independent, a Republican, or a Democrat. It's in the high 70s or 80s that able-bodied people who can work should work, and it's kind of interesting because I sat in that committee during the markup on reconciliation, and we have provisions if you're pregnant, you're not going to lose your benefits. If you're a young child, if you're disabled, if you're elderly, you're not going to lose your benefits. But yet the Democratic argument for, 12 hours was that Republicans were going to take food from pregnant women, babies, disabled people, and elderly, when really we're focusing on the able-bodied people who can work that just choose not to work. And I think there's some of that in the Medicaid too. And, that's what the country was built on. There was a time that people were embarrassed to take help from the government. They didn't want to be on food stamps. They didn't want to take welfare because they were too proud to do that. And we've become a different culture now. And so I think, Clinton made great strides in the 90s on cleaning some of that up, and we've slipped, and now we're trying to reestablish that sense of pride in being self-sufficient and using these safety net programs for what they were designed to do, be a hand up, not a handout. And so, yeah, they're definitely screaming as loud as they can that that's what we're trying to cut. But, this whole process has been very convoluted. And the SALT deductions, it seems like they reached some kind of an agreement last night with states like New York and California. Frankly, I'm not a big fan. In Tennessee, we don't have a state income tax, so we all pay our federal income tax in full. States like California and New York have very high state income taxes. And these folks want to be able to deduct what they paid to their state from their federal. Well, that's great for those states because they get 100% of the revenue from their state income tax, where we in Tennessee have to take whatever's diluted out and divide it up on the other 50 states and get what would be considered our share from that. So I'm not as sympathetic for the salt people as maybe some.
Well,
folks are.
Congressman, if I may, isn't that basically red states subsidizing the tax and spend policies of blue states, especially when you look at their soft on crime, pro illegal immigration policies?
100%. And so, that part of it is frustrating. But if you're a Republican from New York, like Mike Lawler got called out quite a bit yesterday morning when Trump came to visit with us for an hour and a half or whatever. He was in our morning conference meeting. And, I think Mike Lawler may want to run for governor. So if you're running for governor of New York and you haven't secured those SALT deductions for the people, that might make his life a little harder. So I think what they've done is they've raised the amount that they can deduct. It's not the full amount, but I think it's up to like $40,000 now, which to me is a pretty big chunk. And so, I would hope that they would take that. I think it's unfair to states like Tennessee, but if that's what it takes to get our swing state or purple state Republicans back on board to get this thing through, then maybe that's the cut or sacrifice I'll have to make.
Congressman Scott DeJarlais joining us here on Super Talk 99.7. Coming up, we're going to talk about raising the debt limit. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's Golden Dome. And I also want to find out how it went yesterday with the president. It is 7:40, coming up on 7:45. Time to check the roads on WTN.
Paragon Mills Road, there's an accident east of Valley Bridge Drive. Franklin, Lewisburg Pike is closed between Macatcher Boulevard and Stewart Street due to flooding. I'm Christy O'Brien.
Weather today, a high of 80, possible showers tonight. Right now, 64 at WTN. Congressman Scott DeJarlais. So, Congressman, I just got to ask, I'm not trying to be snarky, but is it just a pipe dream that we'll ever be able to, at least go in the right direction on paying down the national debt, tens of trillions of dollars? Because it doesn't seem like that's the direction that we're going.
It is not the direction we're going, and it's the direction we need to go. And I think that Trump's vision of how to do that makes a lot of sense. And everyone wants this to happen immediately, and we know that's just not feasible. But bringing manufacturing back to America, being less dependent on imports from other countries, getting Americans back to work, having more people pulling the wagon than sitting in it is the way to get back to that. So is it possible? Yes, but we have to be willing to stay the course. Trump has done all these tariffs that have been controversial, but so far it seems like he's winning. The market, showed a lot of uncertainty. It seems to be steadying, in fact, maybe better than where it was. Other countries are in tough shape financially, and they don't want to have to deal with these high tariffs either. So I see Trump's strategy starting to work. But if we bring manufacturing back to this country, get people back to work, get regulatory burdens out of the way, increase our energy production, become a net exporter again, do some of the things he was doing in his first term, then yes, if the country's making more money, people are doing better, the economy's better, then yes, I think it's feasible that we start nibbling away at this debt. It's going to take time, and the way the pendulum swings up here politically, that's hard to do. We need to keep these policies in place for at least 10 years to show the direction that we want it to go.
It's a multi-pronged attack, right? I mean, you're right. And you brought up a lot of the things. There's going to be income from the tariffs as well. I mean, there's a lot of different things that President Trump is trying to do, and it very much does seem like the president is playing a chess match, and I see exactly what he is trying to do. Are you concerned with the raising of the debt ceiling?
It's always a concern because it's very unpopular among us conservatives, because it just seems like, all right, my credit card's maxed, it's been maxed, but we're just going to raise the limit again, and that's irresponsible financially. But again, the mess that we've been placed into by mismanagement of the prior administrations, and I'm not going to blame it all on Biden. This goes back a long time under Obama. Trump had a big spending package, and so there's been a lot of spending going on for a long time, and we just haven't had the right accountability. but defaulting on the debt would be a bad thing. I think Trump just wants to kind of clear the deck so he can implement his policies over the next 3 or 4 years. He doesn't want that to be his problem. He wants it to be the next administration's problem. And so, yeah, of course I have heartburn over raising the debt ceiling, but I also believe in the vision that he's laid out and the play that he's called in this big, beautiful bill. I think we need to get it across the finish line. There's things in there I certainly don't like, but there's more in there that I do like, and we have a slim majority. And he's the one that America elected, I think, with a mandate, securing the border, which he's really already done, strengthening our military. We're going to talk about the Golden Dome in a minute. I think he's the quarterback, and we've got to run the play that's called. And so I think that if we don't support the president's agenda, then we're not supporting what America asked for.
748, and I think the phrase that pays this morning with this bill is "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good." I think would you say that that applies here?
Yeah, we've heard that a few times. We heard the president say it yesterday, and it's never going to be perfect. That's not Washington. There's people from all factions. We have very conservative people in Tennessee, but there's other states that we have members from that don't look at it the same. So there's got to be a little compromise for this to work. Golden Dome, I got to tell you, I'm so excited for this, Congressman Scott DeJarlais. I remember way back in 1983 talking to my dad. Now, realize back in 1983, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was left as the day is long, and I also had a lot more hair. But it was the one thing that my dad and I actually agreed on was what Ronald Reagan wanted to do with the, what they call the Star Wars missile defense system. And now here we are. That was in 83. Now here we are in 2025, and Donald Trump wants to make it happen. You're right there on the front lines. Tell me what your thought is. Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking to the right guy, because I think I've told you I'm the subcommittee chair on the Armed Services Committee of Strategic Forces. And what I'm responsible for is nuclear modernization, missile defense, hypersonic weapons, everything space, satellites, anti-satellites, and coincidentally, Golden Dome. That falls under my committee. So I've had already multiple meetings, closed-door meetings with all the main players, the generals, and the military folks that are tasked with this. And yeah, it's really pretty exciting. Now, we were already doing a lot of this before it had a name, because there's all kinds of new threats from around the world. Russia has done things outside of the New START treaty with their Skyfall nuclear-powered cruise missiles. They've got apparently delivery systems just off the coast. There's apparently some kind of a satellite in space that could take out low Earth orbits with a nuclear blast that could be done. And I got to be careful, because there's a lot of classified stuff weaved in here. But China has hypersonic weapons that can, in theory, kill carriers. And so the threats are not just intercontinental ballistic missiles anymore, where we have to shoot down missiles coming from Russia or China. We've got Iran. We've got North Korea. We've got all these proxies with terroristic ideas. And so what the Golden Dome looks like in America is not going to be like the Iron Dome in Israel, because our country's so big. But you have to have better sensors in space that can detect launches of these various high-tech weapons. You got to deny their ability to communicate with their satellites. So they can have a smart hypersonic weapon that can hit a carrier, but if they can't communicate with their satellites, they can't hit it. And so we have all kinds of projects underway to defeat those technologies. And then you got to prioritize your targets. Obviously, Washington, D.C. is protected. You want to protect your large population centers. To me, it's extremely important that we protect our launch facilities. We don't have a lot of those, but access to space is key. And so you don't want to take hits to your launch pads. Your missile fields in Montana and North Dakota need to be protected. So we have all kinds of high-value targets that we need to protect first, and that involves increasing our capacity of our missile interceptors, whether it's THAAD or Patriot or new types of technology that's coming out. We've been looking at how we're doing acquisitions in military, bringing in these private companies that have really the ability to move faster than the government because they're not restricted by risk or bureaucracy. And so we're changing the way that we acquire weapons. China does whatever the heck they want because they don't have to answer to anybody. We have a slow process that's got us into this mess. And so one of our big focuses in defense this year is how we deal with public-private partnerships. And I'm just amazed at the different companies I've met with from really all around the world that are bringing new technologies into the game that are giving us strategic advantages. And so building this Golden Dome basically is better sensors, more capacity to defeat the new threats, and then prioritizing our targets and eventually expanding it to cover as much of the country as we can. And it has a fancy name, Golden Dome, because it's Trump.
Yes, it does have a fancy name. And of course it's gold because, of course, it is Donald Trump. I did have, just as we close out, I did have an expert from the Heritage Foundation on earlier, and I did ask him the feasibility that this thing can be built within 3 years. And he said, absolutely, we can do it in 3 years because what they're going to do is, so we've got existing infrastructure and we're just going to add to that. Do you believe we can get this done, Congressman, in 3 years?
We can get a lot of it done. As I say, we're already doing a lot of it. It's just, it's more focused now. And it's about stepping up production because it requires more. There's more threats and there's more. I mean, drones are a huge threat that we're trying to deal with. We're watching what's happening in Ukraine. And it seems like a drone would be easier to shoot down than a missile because, that's a bullet hitting a bullet. But anything that's maneuverable is more difficult to hit. So you have to use things like directed energies and lasers and microwave technology and a lot of different things to handle the different threats. But yes, we're building them now. We have $25 billion in funding in our armed services markup that we just did in reconciliation. Trump's putting a price tag of about $175 billion on it. But I think it's essential that we protect the homeland. This is an idea that, as you said, Reagan had. It's long overdue. We can get a lot of things done in 3 years if we get the green light to allow the companies to bring forth the technology that I've been seeing, and a lot of it's space. If you can't win in space, you can't win on the ground. And so defeating their satellites in different orbits, whether it's low Earth orbit, but geosynchronous orbit, and some of the tougher orbits to get to, is really where I think the action is going to be at, because you have to build redundancy. We know they can take out some of ours. We know we can take out some of theirs, but you got to have more different ways to access your technology on the ground. So for the warfighter on the ground, it all starts in space. That's the new war fighting domain, and I think I like where we're headed from what I'm seeing. And so yes, I think we can get an awful lot done in 3 years. We just we need to get the funding, and we need to get the green light to let these innovative new companies bring in their technology to get it done.
All right. As always, a great conversation with Congressman Scott DeJarlais. Have a great rest of week. It is 7:55, Nashville's Morning News. Joan Jones is in the dust-encrusted WTN newsroom, and she's got the latest coming up at 8.
Yeah, I've got breaking news this morning on a couple of fronts. A moments ago, a tentative deal reached on one of the sticking points on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Also, we have just learned that a member of the U.S. House of Representatives has died this morning. Details coming up here at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning, 8 o'clock now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Couple of very important traffic notes for you here this morning in Cockrell Bend on Briley Parkway southbound, just past County Hospital Road. That's exit 25. They're working on the roadway there. It's TDOT crews on a bridge, and it's causing a 52-minute delay. Now, there is an over-hour delay in Almaville on 8040, the westbound lanes at Almaville Road. That's exit 47. There's a crash in the median, and it's causing a huge backup this morning. In the news, a marathon overnight session still underway for the House of Representatives, the House Rules Committee, debating and voting on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Here's NBC's Garrett Hack.
House Republicans can only afford to lose 3 votes when the bill comes to the floor. Speaker Mike Johnson, confident.
I believe we're going to land the plane.
The legislation includes major boosts in funding for immigration enforcement and the military. It also extends Trump's 2017 tax cuts, set to expire at the end of this year.
And moments ago, Fox News reported that House Speaker Mike Johnson has reached a tentative deal with blue state Republican lawmakers that would boost the cap on state and local tax deductions or SALT to $40,000. That was a big sticking point here. Now, that's up from $30,000 currently. It remains unclear, though, whether the GOP hardliners who oppose raising that SALT cap deduction are going to sign off now on that measure. A 5th escapee from a New Orleans prison now captured.
That 5th escaped inmate was captured at his grandmother's apartment, but a source tells ABC that it doesn't appear that the grandmother knew that she was harboring a fugitive. The suspects are moving too quickly from one hiding place to another, but investigators say the public is helping, including an Uber driver who picked up at least one of the fugitives and then tipped off investigators.
That's ABC's Faith Abube. A 4th jail employee has been suspended as well. Another booked into jail. He was accused of helping the inmates by shutting off the water so that the group could escape through a hole behind a toilet. The FAA now limiting flights through Newark Liberty Airport in New Jersey to 28 departures and arrivals per hour through June 15th because of disruptions that have caused severe flight delays and cancellations. The airport's been experiencing a series of technology and communications outages, and there are not enough air traffic controllers. The airport also under runway construction. Got an update on the injuries suffered by a Pittsburgh Pirates fans from the folks at Good Morning America.
This fan falling out of the stands at a Pittsburgh Pirates game this month. The 20-year-old is now out of the ICU and is preparing for rehab. A 21-year-old has now been charged with giving him alcohol at that game.
The 20-year-old Caven Markwood broke his neck, clavicle, and back, but his mother says he's showing signs of real strength. Also, we are just learning of the death of Virginia Congressman this morning. Democrat Jerry Connolly passed away after a short battle with esophageal cancer. He was diagnosed 6 months ago. In a statement, his family says he died peacefully at home this morning, surrounded by family. Connolly was 75 years old. Market Numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Everything is down this morning as we head into the open. Dow futures are minus 377 points. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Wow, what a mess this morning. Okay, we have some really difficult delays to go through this morning. Almaville on 840, the westbound side at Almaville Road. There's a crash in the median and about a 70-minute backup behind it. Also, Cockrell Bend, Briley Parkway southbound, just past County Hospital Road. There's road work in the right lane, and it's TDOT crews that are up on the bridge there working on the roadway, and that's causing about a 45-minute delay. Jolton, an accident on 24 eastbound side at Whites Creek Pike. The left lane is blocked off there, and it'll take you about 32 minutes to get through that one. Pleasant View, 24 eastbound at the McMahon Hollow Road overpass, a crash. And another one in Whites Creek on 24. This is the westbound side at Old Hickory Boulevard, north of exit 40. The right lane is blocked off by an accident in that spot as well. And then you've got delays this morning in Franklin. Now, there's a couple of places that are flooded out. 3rd Avenue South between South Margin Street and 4th Avenue North, and another flooded out spot on Lewisburg Pike between Mack Hatcher Boulevard and Campton Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning. I
was just saying to KGB, it's like, what's Armageddon out on the roadways?
Well, some of this stuff is because of the flooding. I'm not even telling you everything that's on the board. There are some other places that are having problems too. So this is a heck of a morning getting out on the roads.
I think people ought to just stay home. You have my permission, and Joan will write you a note. Joan will write that note to your boss, giving you that permission to stay home.
Just tell him. Talk to
exactly
Dan and Joan.
Right. Yeah. No. Talk to Joan. Nobody cares about me. Everybody loves Joan. That's what I keep hearing every single day. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, that's it.
All right. .809 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into the fourth and final hour of Nashville's Morning News. By the way, if you missed the previous three, you can always check the podcast. You can always check the replay on YouTube. And we've done a lot this morning, and that does continue with our friend Mitch Soberman. Now, of course, if you have been listening for a while, you know that Mitch is co-founder of the nationwide nonprofit Jewish Republican Alliance. And Mitch, I wanted to have you on because I'm really interested in your opinion on Donald Trump's trip to the Middle East, because some of my Jewish friends, they have said that they weren't real happy with the president on a number of different things related to Israel and negotiating with some of these countries in the Middle East. So I wanted to get your opinion on it. A lot of victories there for America. What say you?
Good morning, Dan. Thrilled to be here. Honored to be here. President Trump has shown in his first term in this one, he has assembled the most rabidly pro-Israel, pro-Jewish cabinet in probably American history. So him going to the Middle East, he's showing that he's on Israel's side, because what he's doing, he's trying to build coalitions. Israel's already on the team. He's already got Israel's back. Israel has our back. And now he's doing kind of what he did with the Abraham Accords. He's getting more and more Arab countries on board to really isolate Iran, who's the biggest threat in the Middle East. So I think it was a big win. And don't doubt this man. He's a 3D, chess kind of a guy, and he thinks way ahead, and he thinks so much out of the box. So he's earned our faith and trust in how he feels about Israel. And also, he's the peace president. He wants peace. He's made it abundantly clear.
Well, in the news today, of course, and I've been talking about this all day with President Trump's Golden Dome, and that is actually a peace move. I mean, that peace through strength, that is part of what I would say the epitome of peace through strength is a really good defense, because what you're doing is you're signaling to those enemies, and make no mistake, the enemies of Israel are the enemies of America as well. And it's signaling to, all of those countries that you're not going to be able to attack us. I think personally, what you're saying does make a lot of sense. Do you think there's a possibility that part of what the president is wanting to do is to extend the Abraham Accords out to other nations as well?
Oh, absolutely, Dan. I mean, listen, he had the brilliant approach with the Abraham Accords to say we're not even going to put a seat at the table for the Palestinians. He went around them, and it worked. The only reason he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize is because of Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
And also, take a look at the way he was received when he went over to the Middle East, Dan. He literally was treated like royalty. They rolled out a red carpet, a purple carpet, a whole cadre of camels. They even had the McDonald's truck waiting for him. The Middle East, for them, weakness is a provocation. They know this man is strong. They do fear him, and they deeply respect him. He is the ultimate strong man, and they know it.
Have you heard, Mitch Soberman, by the way, joining us, have you heard, Mitch, about any sort of, consternation, some issues between President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu?
I have. I mean, you don't know what to believe anymore. You hear the grumblings. Mostly people on the left, and sadly, Dan, you and I have spoken about it. Probably far too large of a percentage of Jewish people are on the left. And any moment they have to take it out on President Trump and try to put daylight between him and Israel or Netanyahu, they'll take it. He has proven over and over and over again he has Israel's back. I mean, look what he's doing to college campuses. Basically, he's telling them flat out, no more anti-Semitism or you don't get a single dollar from us. I mean, he has put his foot down on anti-Semitism, on being pro-Israel. So you have to have faith that what he's doing is in Israel's best interest, the Middle East's best interest, and ultimately the United States' best interest as well.
Mitch, in your other life, when you're not doing guest shots for me, you are a highfalutin financial guy. So you run in the circles of all of these, people that have graduated from places like Harvard and Yale and so forth. And so I'm sure that the people, the crowd that you run around with, I'm sure that they're very excited that the president is really doing whatever he can to put the screws to a university like Harvard, who does allow anti-Semitism to run rampant. And he wants to, take away some of their funding. He wants to take away their tax-exempt status and so forth. I will say that it's about darn time.
Oh, absolutely. Where does it say in the Constitution that us hard-paying, taxpayers, hardworking taxpayers owe money to Harvard, which has, what was their endowment, $60 billion? Why on earth are we giving them even a penny? And they have a lot of temerity saying, you owe us this money, and how dare you put any controls or requests upon us? I mean, do you know any other situation in life where someone demands money and you have no say in what I do with this money, or you have no say in how I behave, but you owe me the money anyway? So, it is, I agree with you, it's long overdue. Listen, we've talked about this, Dan. If the campus was filled with KKK members, the whole world would come down on them. But because it's only Jews, they look the other way. It's really frightening.
Mitch Soberman is joining us on Super Talk 99.7. Got a couple of more issues to discuss right now, though. We've got a lot going on the roadways. Joan Jones, and is Joan doing the traffic this time, or is it the random traffic reporter from Pennsylvania is doing our traffic now on WTN? Thank you. 8:15, Nashville's Morning News on WTN. Your weather today, a high of 80 degrees and possible showers as well. All right, Mitch Soberman. Let me ask you this question. And for folks that are just joining us, Mitch is co-founder of the nationwide nonprofit Jewish Republican Alliance. So President Trump is making overtures towards Iran. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to lead the witness, but this is a touchy one for me because I'm one of those you don't negotiate with terrorists kind of guys. I don't know if we can trust Iran, but President Trump wants to make a deal with Iran so that they won't have nuclear weapons. And nuclear weapons, of course, a proliferation. This is something that Iran has wanted for a long time. They've been working towards this. And President Trump, what he wants to do is come to an agreement with Iran so that they will stop their drive towards their acceleration towards nuclear weapons. I just don't know if we can trust Iran.
Well, Dan, that's the key issue. We cannot trust Iran. The people of Iran apparently are wonderful people, very pro-America. It's the regime, the mullahs. They are not trustworthy. They have bloodlust. It's a death culture. How many presidents since Carter have tried everything they could with Iran? Trump is street smart. He is savvy. You're not going to pull one over on him. So we have to give him a little leeway in his approach. But he said just the other day, I'm sure you heard it, Dan, he said something about he had very harsh language, like they cannot and they will not get nuclear weapons or they'll find out. I mean, basically it was a diplomatic way of saying F-A-F-O. So again, he's earned our trust. Yes. What's his approach? I don't know, but every previous approach really has not worked, has it?
Nope. And we'll have to see what happens with Iran. That's going to be something that I'm definitely going to be watching. I mean, let's be honest. Iran was behind the Hamas attack on Israel because Iran funded it and their military helped to train Hamas in the attack. So I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I want to play an audio bite from you. I should say from Tim Walz for you. And Tim Walz, of course, everybody knows who he is. But he said this, and I got to tell you, it astonishes me that folks on the left are able to get away with these kinds of anti-Semitic comments. Listen.
Every single day, the President of the United States finds new ways to trample rights and undermine the rule of law. Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons.
So you've got Tim Walz calling ICE and the Trump administration modern-day Gestapo. And I'm not Jewish, but I would see that is very anti-Semitic because the Gestapo was the force that rounded up the Jews so that they could be sent off to the concentration camps. So just like when you got these folks that called Donald Trump Hitler, you got Tim Walz calling ICE the Gestapo. And ultimately what they're doing is they're sanitizing the horrific things that Hitler and the Gestapo did by making these idiotic comparisons. It is anti-Semitic.
It's atrocious, Dan. They say things without thinking them through. You're right. They trivialize the Holocaust. The way they rounded up German citizens who happened to be Jewish and sent them off. Here's the analogy I'll give you. Everyone on the left says, oh, these poor immigrants, the migrants. And here's the analogy I'll give you, Dan. Imagine reading in the newspaper that these horrible policemen are pulling over drivers and arresting them. And I would say, wait a minute, you left out a word. What's the word? Drunk.
Yeah.
They're leaving out the word illegal.
Yep.
They're just migrants, and we're not rounding them up. They're not here legally. And many of them are criminals. You could debunk everything he said. He's just flat out incorrect and probably lying as well.
All right, Mitch, how can people get in touch with or get more information on your organization?
So there's two. The website is www.jewishrepublicanalliance.org, not .com, but .org. Mm-hmm. Or on X, it's at my Jew Rep Alliance, Jew Rep Alliance, or jewishrepublicanalliance.org.
All right, Mitch, always great to have you on and great analysis and perspective. It is 8:20 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Hey, Joan.
Yes, Dan.
I want to play you this. I'm looking at, let me repost this. I'm going to repost this. So, of course, I don't know. I'm on like this one-man campaign against Afton Bain.
Oh, yeah.
And so she has posted this. I don't know when this is, but Andy Ogles has reposted this video of Afton Bain. By the way, State Representative Afton Bain.
Okay, this is great. We've got our girl squad and we're bullying the ICE vehicles and state troopers. So this is a win. Your favorite blonde state rep? Her phone's always at 1%.
My favorite blonde state rep is not Afton Bain. I'm actually trying to think of any state reps that are blonde. I have no idea. But they're going out, the girl squad, in this video. They posted this, obviously, to Instagram or what have you.
Yeah. I think my superlative is most likely to always have her phone at 1%. So.
And they're just having a great time. I mean, they're
having a great time breaking the law.
Breaking the law. So now you have Andy Ogles, and he posted this. It looks like he posted this last night. This is Nashville State Representative Afton Bain. She just posted. Now, I don't know when she posted this. I have no idea, because I know that she's posted a lot of these videos. But Andy Ogles, of course, says she just posted a 15-minute video of her and a friend stalking the Tennessee Highway Patrol as they carried out official duties, openly admitting they were trying to stall law enforcement from stopping illegal aliens. He says, let's be clear. Again, this is Congressman Andy Ogles. Let's be clear. Freddie O'Connell is enabling Nashville liberals to actively obstruct ICE and law enforcement operations. He says this isn't just reckless, it is aiding and abetting. So, I don't know, is Andy going to go ahead and recommend that the feds investigate Afton Bain along with Freddie O'Connell? I hope he does.
Yeah.
Because I think that these two are, and I don't know who this other woman is in the video. Maybe that is Sandra Sepulveda. I really don't know, and I don't care. But they are aiding and abetting, and they are providing, what would be the cover for the illegal aliens, and trying to do whatever they can to help them escape ICE and the Tennessee Highway Patrol. So, and obviously they're having a great time doing it. And so this is a story that is going to go on. I wish we had Scott Sapicki on, right? Was that last week or this week? Whenever it is. We had last week. All right. Scott Sapicki, State Representative Scott Sapicki. He was on last week. And so what we spoke about was, okay, District Attorney Glenn Funk, we have for Nashville. We have Freddie O'Connell, Afton Bain, Sandra Sepulveda, and others, perhaps, within the state and city government, and they are inhibiting ICE, and they're trying to protect illegal aliens, which is a crime. And so then the question was, you remember this conversation, it's podcast. So then the question is, okay, so is Glenn Funk, of course, is he going to do anything about it because they are committing crimes and they're not upholding their oath of office? Glenn Funk isn't going to do anything, obviously, although we got to give him his time. So now the question is, should the state legislature step in and then give the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee, Jonathan Skrmetti, the room to go ahead and move into a district issue where if the local district attorney is not doing their job, then the Attorney General can step in if they get permission from the Tennessee state legislature. And I don't know where that stands, but we had Scott Sapicki on, and he was talking about just that, and about how, maybe the governor, maybe they need to call a special session so that they can give the Attorney General for the state of Tennessee, Jonathan Skrmetti, the permission to go after these folks. I really, really wish that they would. And Afton Bain is not my favorite blonde state lawmaker.
Are you sure?
I'm positive, but I can't name another blonde,
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. All right, it's Joan Jones in the my favorite brunette traffic reporter on WTN and Morning Drive.
I'm not a traffic reporter.
Well, you are right now. Oh, you're not. We're not doing traffic. We're doing news.
Dan. Come on, man.
It's a Danurism.
It's a Danurism.
It's a Wednesday Danurism.
Lord.
No,
you've
know
been
what?
everywhere today.
In fairness to me.
Yeah.
In fairness to me, we were talking about how bad the traffic was earlier, and it's on my mind.
Yeah,
and
it is pretty bad.
When I have a Danurism, you just got to say,
Dadgummit,
and move right along. All right, it is 8:25. Joan, what is happening?
Well, we're tracking President Trump's big, beautiful bill debate, which is still ongoing with members of Congress this morning. And also the breaking news that a member of the U.S. House of Representatives has passed away. Those stories coming up here at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$8:25, Nashville's Morning News. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They want you to know that those terrific TVA rebates, they've been extended. Now, mini split 17 SEER 2 or higher. You're going to get an $800 rebate when you go through Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You can get up to 12 months, no payment, and no interest. Restrictions apply. Busy Bee, of course, has rebates on AC tune-ups as well. $50 rebate for each one, the spring and the fall. Then that pays for your Beehive membership for the year. Now, here's the other thing about Busy Bee. You need a gig, they've got gigs available. Now, they're hiring. They have a hiring open house on May 31st. That is on a Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. You've got to have at least 3 years of experience in plumbing and HVAC. They are hiring for both service and install departments. Pay range, pretty good for the experienced roles, $30 to $39 an hour with also health care benefits, 2 weeks of paid time off. Also, the office is closed on federal holidays and your birthday. You get your birthday off and a whole lot more. So check them out today, 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833. Find them online, busybeehvac.com. $8:27, Nashville's Morning News. Renstall. Now, listen, if you've got a European vehicle, this is the place you want to go. RENNSTAHL. Folks have been asking, how do you spell this place? It's Renstall. Now, find their website, itrustmymechanic.com. If you own a European vehicle, this is the place you want to go. They specialize in only European vehicles. And so if you've got a BMW, an Audi, Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, any other European car, this is a great company to go to. They are locally owned and operated. And again, they exclusively work on all European vehicles. By the way, these folks at Renstall, I've met them. They're great Americans, and they're proud Tennesseans. And right now, they offer the Heroes Service discount. Veterans, active duty military, first responders, and emergency medical personnel get a 10% discount on all repairs. They also offer complimentary shuttle service and free Uber rides as well, immediate appointments, and quick turnaround. So many reasons to appreciate Renstall. Find them online, itrustmymechanic.com, itrustmymechanic.com. And these folks are very conveniently located, across the street from the Academy of Country Music, 5 minutes from Music Row, and 2 minutes from downtown, and minutes from the airport as well. 615-777-7100, 615-777-7100, itrustmymechanic.com.
Good morning. It's now 8:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Let's take a look at the traffic trouble spots that are still left this morning. That accident on 840, the westbound lanes in Almaville. It's right at Almaville Road. The left lane remains blocked off by it this morning. The delays are beginning to ease, but still around 36 minutes worth of delay in that spot. And then 24, the eastbound side in Joelton at Whites Creek Pike. There's also an accident. The left lane is blocked off there, and a long delay behind that as well. Now, the House Rules Committee is continuing that marathon session at this hour. It began at 1 o'clock this morning. Let's take a quick listen to what's happening right now. It's very low audio. While that session continues, we'll get a vote later on this morning as well. An agreement earlier on raising the SALT deduction there in that room. We'll keep an eye on this debate and the vote as this continues this morning. The National Weather Service saying it was an EF4 tornado that ripped through several Kentucky counties on Monday, killing 19 people. Channel 4's Amanda Hara on that.
The National Weather Service says that the tornado traveled through Russell, Pulaski, and Laurel counties. 17 people died in Laurel County alone. Officials say the tornado was on the ground for nearly 60 miles.
It was the only EF4 tornado on the record in Kentucky in the past 50 years. And breaking this morning, U.S. Congressman Jerry Connolly from Virginia has died. His family says he had been diagnosed with esophageal cancer 6 months ago. And last month, he stepped down as the top Democrat on the influential House Oversight Committee. Jerry Connolly was 75 years old. Money News brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Opening bell here just about 2 minutes ago, and the Dow Jones Industrials beginning the day 329 points lower. The NASDAQ falling 105. The S&P 500 index down 32. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 8:32 on Nashville's Morning News. Let me tell you about my friends at Stoltzco. Now, not only is this a great company, but also, they're expanding. So if you want a turnkey pole barn home, we call them barn dominiums, well, they'll do that for you. Everything is included. Check them out, stoltzco.com, STOLTZCO. Again, their services to you, they are expanding. Putting up a pole barn from Stoltzco could increase the value of your land big time. And as I've been telling you for years now, you can use that pole barn as a garage, an event space, an equestrian building. And again, you can just live in it. Pole barns from Stoltzco, they are flexible and they are built really well. They will stand the test of time. Now call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 615-622-5992. Find out what Stoltzco can do for you. 615-622-5992. You can also find them on Instagram and Facebook or at that website, STOLTZCO, stoltzco.com.
Okay, the delay in Almaville now at about 42 minutes. That's better than it was. There's a crash on 840 westbound at Almaville Road with the left lane blocked off there. Then you've got an accident in Joelton causing about 27 minutes worth of delay. That one's on 24 eastbound side at Whites Creek Pike. And then you've got a crash in Jordonia. This is Ashland City Highway eastbound at Cato Road. Heavy traffic there, too. A couple of spots in Franklin are closed off because of flooding. 3rd Avenue South between South Margin Street and 4th Avenue North, and then again on Lewisburg Pike between Mac Hatcher Boulevard and Campton Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.838, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. You know, I think, Joan, that it's been a pretty decent show. I've only had, you know, one bad moment of the show. I've only had one moment where I thought to myself,
bad gummit,
where I knew that I made a mistake.
I was going to ask you, one bad moment. Where would you rank it on the dadgummit scale?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you, and we're not going to repeat what I did.
Which one?
You could just stop it, young man. But
he's insufferable, isn't he? Dad.
But I've only had one dadgum moment.
Dadgummit.
And we're not going to. But other than that, it's been a pretty decent show, actually. I accidentally threw Joan into the dust-encrusted traffic corner.
Yeah.
That was a mistake.
Yeah.
And what followed it. Anyway, hey, weird thing happened yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm still trying to figure this out. We talked a little bit about this in the 5 o'clock hour. But there's a listener who hangs out on the YouTube chat, right? And you know, the YouTube chat, that's like their own culture over there. Like they're just...
It's where the most fun listeners
They have a
hang
lot
out.
of fun.
They have a lot of fun.
So every once in a while I pop on, and these folks are great. But apparently there's one who just had a baby. And guy's name is it Touge?
Touge fan, I believe is how you say it.
Touge fan?
Yes.
Touge?
Yep.
So Touge fan had a baby.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Touge fan.
It's his first.
Awesome.
His last comment on the YouTube channel was, "This girl be pooping."
Yeah, she does. They do.
So
they tend to do that.
They do. Oh, you just wait.
I thought girls poop?
Oh, they do. And for a
sure
couple
do.
weeks, it looks like octopus ink.
Oh, it's gross.
Good Lord.
It is. We can get into that. But apparently, so Touge, the original plan was to name the middle name of new baby after Murphy's show.
Yep.
Because it looked like the baby was going to come during Murphy's show.
That's what they thought.
But said baby was late or early. I don't know which one. I think it was late. But anyway, baby was born at 8:30 in the morning.
Oh.
Which meant that they named their new baby middle name after yours truly.
It's an unbelievable story.
It really is.
It was a May 20th miracle. And so now the baby's name is Eleanor Daniela, which is an amazing name. That is a beautiful name.
Rolls off the tongue.
It sure does.
I just want to go on the record. Much better flow than Eleanor Maddie.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Now, I have a question.
Yes.
Since I'm the only female on the show, why isn't this kid's name Eleanor Joan?
I think after yesterday's Gang of Three, they weren't sure which show you were a part of.
I see.
Because you said that you identified as a Chris Hand.
I have
fan
a
or
question.
whatever.
If the child was born during Chris's show, what would the middle name be there?
I think they would have gone with Christina.
Christina,
Christina,
sure.
or Christina.
And if it was Chad's show?
Is there a female version of Chad?
I don't think so.
Chadina.
No.
Chardonnay.
Don't do that to the kid.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay? That's not bad.
But from what I understand, Murphy Show's a little hurt. Because he got the middle name naming taken away from him, and it went to the morning show.
I think Murphy got his hopes up.
He did.
And then he was deflated.
And
like
apparently
a balloon.
all of this was unfolding on the afternoon show.
Well,
last several days. I had no idea any of this was going on until I was notified yesterday. And
I had no idea it was going on until it started popping off in my chat.
Oh.
And then people were like, "Whoa, you didn't name the baby after Murphy." And then I was the first one to realize they named that baby after Dan.
There you go. Eleanor Daniela.
I can see Matt going home just like kicking like, "Oh man," just a little kick of like disappointment. Oh man.
Shucks.
Shucks.
So then I tuned into the Murphy Show yesterday, and they're talking. I don't even remember what they were talking about, but it never fails that I tune in to the Murphy Show and they're talking about me, and I heard Chris, Murphy, and I think Ken too. All three of them have an impression of yours truly, and they all sound like the kid that got his ass kicked in high school.
That's a pretty accurate description.
They always make me sound like this.
Well, Dan,
I don't sound like that.
Did you get your ass kicked in high school?
No.
Dan?
Dan was tough.
I was a lover, not a fighter.
That means you got your ass kicked.
I was an attempted lover. Let's put it that way. Moving right along.
That's hilarious.
No, I did get an atomic wedgie from my brother.
An atomic wedgie?
An atomic wedgie.
Over the head?
Yeah. Well, he tried. He tried. My underwear ended up ripping.
He tried.
Jeez.
Yeah, my underwear. You ever had an atomic wedgie?
No.
Yeah.
People liked me.
Yeah.
You have had an atomic wedgie?
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's a sharing moment.
I've given a few out too.
That's not shocking. KGB, behave.
It's such a boy thing to do.
We got an atomic wedgie giver in here.
Oh yeah.
Oh. So
yeah, it's not fun. And again, my underwear basically ended up ripping. So my brother did it. My brother, my freshman year in high school, my brother was the heartthrob, surfer, great athlete. You know.
Oh,
junior.
I see the dynamic
Everybody,
in your household.
You have no idea the dynamic between me and my brother. Everybody loved him. He had long hair, really cool. This is California, right? He's a surfer.
Right.
And then, I'm just this dork that comes in from, junior high, and I'm nowhere near as cool as my brother. And so my mom tells my brother, "Now, Mikey, you make sure that Danny feels welcome. He gave me a wedgie.
Welcome to the real world.
Did he say you're welcome right after?
No, he laughed and walked away.
Was it a public shaming kind of wedgie?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah.
It was
okay.
Yeah,
right in front of his squad.
Yeah,
and in front of the girl you liked.
His surfer squad. No, I had already known by my freshman year in high school that just wasn't going to happen. So it was what it was. You know what you do when you handle those kinds of situations? I actually learned this very early on. When people are laughing at you, you laugh along with them. That's what you got to do. Because the second you start getting defensive, then you are a target for the rest of your life.
Yep.
So you got to diffuse those situations with humor. And I laughed and I said something to the effect of, well, now I've got to go home and get more underwear. You know what I mean? So it was, it was kind of, I didn't think it was funny at the time, but I got through it.
Poor Dan.
So, I don't know. Maybe I do sound like the guy that got his ass kicked in high school. Maybe Murphy and Chris and Ken, maybe their impersonation of me is spot on. Nobody's saying anything, so everybody knows that it's true.
You know the impression you just did of your mother?
What's that?
You know the impression you just did of your mother?
Wow, Mikey.
Yes, that one.
Yes, that's how she sounded.
That's how Murphy sounded last night when he was doing your voice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Speaking of Murphy.
I couldn't have sounded. Murphy's on the show.
Oh.
We must have said his name 3 times, Matt.
Yeah.
Whenever you say his name 3 times, he calls in.
Matt, I want to make sure that you're not driving and crying because that is very dangerous. And I know that you're probably still upset at the fact that Touche named his baby Eleanor Daniela as opposed to Eleanor
Maddie.
Yes. You're right.
I am certain that he feels good about his decision to name the baby after you, considering that you don't know how to pronounce his name.
That's it.
I also think that it's amusing that Dan wanted everyone listening to National This Morning News to know that he was not a nerd in school.
Is Murphy calling from inside a suitcase?
I know, right?
I think so. What did you say, Matt? We lost you there for a second.
Oh, no, I think I'm about to get arrested. But anyway, no, I said that I found it interesting that Dan said he wasn't a nerd in school, but then proceeded to tell a 5-minute story about how he got an atomic wedgie, and it didn't bother him, but he remembered every minute detail of the atomic wedgie.
Oh, I didn't go into every minute detail. I could have, but
you went into pretty intense.
So you remember it. But here's what I said, Dan, because I think you're mildly misrepresenting the story. What I said was, it upset me a little that I didn't have the baby named after me until I realized that it is a feminine child, and it makes more sense that
Okay. You know what? Touche, Matt Murphy. Love it. Touche.
I know. I'm not butthurt at all. I'm not butthurt one little bit that the listener dangled naming rights in front of me and then snatched them away at the last minute. Doesn't bother me at all, man.
Oh, man, that is so funny. Matt, in all seriousness, outstanding weather coverage last night.
Yes, kudos.
I thought it was very good. One thing I did notice, though, an inaccuracy on your show yesterday, and that is, do I really sound like that?
No, you know how, have you ever had a caricature done of yourself, Dan?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Drawing, you do it at the beach. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know what? You should do it on your Disney cruise. You and Amy and Riker should sit down on your Disney cruise and have a caricature done. And when they do that, they're going to make your nose a lot bigger than it really is. And they're going to make your forehead a lot shinier than it actually is. And they're going to make you a little balder than you actually are. And it's just accentuating the most noticeable attributes of your face. And that's all we're doing with your voice. It is more of an homage.
Oh, is that what it is? An homage. Okay. Well, Murphy Show, always love you calling in, and we'll talk to you again soon. Hashtag not a Disney cruise.
So you're not having Mickey Mouse waffles?
No, I'm not having.
Are you just?
And
are you
nobody's
bringing-
going to draw a caricature of you.
What was that? Hold on. Okay, so real quick, Murphy's gone. But so what was the joke I did earlier? It was a really good joke. Somebody yesterday said that I was going to, that's what it was. So somebody on the afternoon show yesterday said that I was going to hang out with Goofy on my Disney cruise. And I said, no, that would be my wife who's hanging out with Goofy, which would be me.
Oh.
You see what I did there?
You should get her a T-shirt with an arrow that says "I'm with Goofy."
That's what we. You know what?
So you are going on a Disney cruise.
No,
It
we're
sounds
not going on a
official as
Disney
it could
cruise.
get.
But you know what we did do? We actually we do now have official cruise shirts.
No, you didn't.
Oh,
we do.
God.
You got the matching attire.
Okay, so this is what's funny.
How'd you talk Amy into it?
Yeah, that's my question. This doesn't sound like an Amy idea to me.
I just for the record,
Let's set the record straight.
I did want the matching shirts. I did because I'm a goofball, and so I'm looking for the text that she and I. Oh, here it is. So you know what? You know what my cruise T-shirt says? It's not easy being my wife's cruise candy, but here I am nailing it.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
And of course, the joke is that my wife is smoking hot and I'm a troll. So there is that. And I see the three of you jumping to my defense.
Hold on. What does Amy's shirt say?
What does Amy's shirt say?
Smoking hot candy?
I'm single.
Soon to be single. Soon to be single. You know what? I don't remember what Amy's shirt said, and I don't want her to text and drive. But it's funny. It is it is a funny shirt, and I can't find it. We bought a lot of clothes for this stupid cruise.
Oh, that's what you do for cruises, though.
What's that? Oh, buy clothes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got the flowery, the flowery shirts and the whole
all
thing.
right,
The
here we
Hawaiian
go.
shirts?
Yep. You know what? Oh, another shirt that I wanted to get was Blame It on the Drink package.
That's funny. That's actually pretty good.
That's exactly right. Not as funny, though. Oh, right. Not as funny, though, as my Goofy joke.
No, that was top notch.
I thought that Goofy joke was funny. Hey, real quick, in 30 seconds, did you tell Tim Burchett about my thing?
No, I didn't tell him, but I alluded to the dadgummit scale because I was keeping track, and we only reached 3 dadgummits.
Yeah.
So I did say to Congressman Burchett towards the end of the call, I noticed you're in a much better mood about everything today than you were with Dan on Friday.
And what did he say?
He said, yes, that's true.
Okay, so I think
Those are rookie numbers.
somebody must have tipped him off that we do have the
Dadgummit
scale.
The DGS.
The DGS. All right, very quickly, 8:53. Joan is here, and she's going to tell us what's coming up in the news at 9.
Yeah, was it a tornado that hit in Clarksville last night? A lot of folks are talking about that funnel cloud. Also, why residents in St. Louis are hopping mad at the mayor. Those stories coming up here at 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dan Mandis here from Mark Spain Real Estate. Preparing to sell your home can be costly and time-consuming. Skip the hassles of a traditional home sale and sell your home stress-free with a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. You can say goodbye to the stress that comes with showings and open houses and costly repairs. My friends at Mark Spain Real Estate, they're going to sell your home fast and for maximum value. So, friends, if you're thinking about selling your home, you can receive an all-cash guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. Call them at 855-299-SOLD. Selling your home is one of the biggest financial decisions you are ever going to make. Go with the people that have that guaranteed offer. 855-299-SOLD. Find them online anytime. MarkSpain.com. That's MarkSpain.com, and start packing.